Hi, if you want to watch exclusive content with hot girls that you won't watch on YouTube, namely where Naruto roasts Kushina and Mikoto and many other hot girls without restrictions, then visit my Boosty channel at the link in the description, Konoha Hokage's office. There were 4 shinobi standing in the office. Among them were Sakura, Sasuke, Hinata and Shikamaru. You 4 have an S-rank mission. You must find a shinobi. He was seen in almost all countries, but it was impossible to verify who he was. The unknown person kept slipping away. The last time he was seen was on the border of fire. Presumably he is moving towards Konoha. We do not know with what intentions this person is moving here, said the Hokage. But why is the mission so high-ranked? Maybe this person is just a wanderer and travels around the world, said Sakura. Everything would be fine, but this traveler's chakra is so strong that it is comparable to an entire army of shinobi, maybe more, we don't know for sure. We only know that he is dressed in a long black cloak, his face is covered by a hood, in his left hand he holds a cane. You must find him and learn about his intentions. Proceed quickly. Yes. The shinobi answered in unison. An hour later they were already moving towards the border. Who could it be? Asked the pink-haired girl. I don't know, Sakura, but he's very strong according to Kakashi, Sasuke answered. Hinata, check where he is. Okay. Byakugan. At 4 o'clock, about 2 kilometers away. It can't be. What is it? Sakura asked. It looks like he noticed us. How is this possible? Shikamaru asked. I don't know, but he's looking in our direction, as if he's waiting for us to arrive. That's weird, Sasuke said. A couple of minutes later, a group of shinobi came to the edge of the forest, where he was already waiting for them. Who are you? And why are you moving to Konoha? Nara asked straight away. I want to return to my native land. The shinobi answered, his voice seemed painfully familiar to them. Take off the hood, ordered the Uchiha. And you're still the same Tima, you're ready to make me lose my temper with just words. He started giving orders here, said the unknown man, but took off his hood. No! It can't be! Sasuke was in shock like everyone else. Naruto. And Naruto-kun. Hello guys. Hello Hinata, long time no see, Naruto said. Why you died, right? You disappeared after the last attack with Madara. Sasuke couldn't believe that his best friend was alive. Naruto-kun. Hinata hugged the blonde and started crying. Kainataka, my love, don't cry, I'm guilty. But I couldn't do otherwise, I had no choice. Please forgive me. It's not your fault, you did what you thought was right, said the brunette, wiping away her tears. She's right, Naruto, said Sakura, recovering from the shock. You acted like a true hero. Thank you. Naruto, I have a lot of questions, and a couple of words, but I won't swear in front of girls. I'll ask just one thing. Where have you been, you bastard, for all these 5 years? The Uchiha's anger seemed to have no limits. I'll tell you everything, but in the village. Who is the Hokage now? Asked the blonde, hugging the still sobbing Hinata. Kakashi. Nara answered the question. This is just great. Now we will return to the village and visit Kakashi-sensei. I will tell you everything there, and then the long-awaited rest. Naruto said. Then he kissed Hinata. How he missed her. The kiss was long, tender, but still had to break it off, because of the indecently frequent coughing on the part of the Uchiha. Realizing that Naruto kissed her in front of everyone, Hinata blushed and buried her face in Naruto's jacket. You're a bastard, did you know that? Naruto said discontentedly. You will still have time to enjoy each other's company, but now the Hokage is waiting for us. Oh yeah, right, said the blonde. He leaned down and whispered something in Hinata's ear, which made her blush even more. Forward, Sasuke said. Stop. Let's just teleport, said the resurrected one. Well, come on, said Nara. The group of shinobi suddenly disappeared in a white flash. They teleported straight to the Hokage's office, where he was just sitting and sorting through mission reports. Kakashi's calm was broken by a flash in the middle of the office, from which Hinata, Sasuke, Shikamaru, Sakura, and appeared. Naruto. Kakashi was stunned. It's not possible you... Yes, he died. But as you can see, I'm alive, and I'm here. Do you want to hear my story too? Uzumaki asked. The Hokage only nodded his head in agreement, still in shock. But first, I'll take off my henge and put up a barrier so that we can't be overheard, said the blonde and folded the seal of concentration. The blonde's clothes and appearance began to gradually change. Now he looked different. He became taller. His hairstyle remained the same, except that his hair became a little paler. The clothes were completely different from before. Naruto was wearing a red cloak just below the knees with a high collar. On the back of it were depicted 6 tomo, and just above concentric circles black, in general, like Rikudo, only a different color. Black jacket, black pants, and such shinobi sandals. On his neck was a necklace of 6 tomo dark red. On the shinobi's head was a protector, in the upper corners of which were small shoots resembling horns, 5 centimeters long. In the middle of it was the Kaji, path. Rinnegan burned in his eyes. Fuinjutsu, shimmering barrier, Naruto called the technique. The Hokage's residence was surrounded by a transparent barrier, invisible to normal eyes. So, where should I start? I'll start with my death, Uzumaki said, sitting down on the sofa. Equals. So, where should I start? I'll start with my death, Uzumaki said, sitting down on the sofa. Naruto's POV. Naruto and Madara were enveloped in a bright light from the collision of techniques. The blonde no longer felt anything. His soul was in a completely different place. The shinobi woke up in an incomprehensible place to him. The space was all white. There was no end to it. Am I dead? Said the little fox, also lying on his back. In a sense, yes, your physical body died, but not your soul. Who's there? Naruto said, turning his head towards the voice. He saw an old man floating in the air. He was dressed all in white, so it was hard to see him, but Naruto could clearly see that the stranger was holding a staff in his hands, somewhat reminiscent of the same one he summoned when he was in sage mode. On his forehead he had 2 small growths that resembled horns. Who are you? Said the blonde. Maybe you should go up first, and then we'll talk? Naruto tried to get up. Every movement in his body was accompanied by terrible pain. He was able to get up only on the second attempt. Somehow keeping his balance, the blonde began to move towards the old man. At that moment, judging by his gait, he looked like a zombie. Well, that's a completely different matter, the pain will soon go away. You didn't answer my question, Uzumaki groaned, looking at this man. I have many names. Answer. He began to slowly irritate Naruto. My name is Hagamoro Otsutsuki, and I am also called the Sage of the 6 Paths, said the founder of Nishu. It can't be, but you died a long time ago, said the shocked shinobi. Yes, that's true, but after death I became God, as did my entire family, said Hagamoro. But how did I end up here? What are you doing here and what's going on here anyway? Naruto started to shower him with questions. Your power is great and that's why we couldn't send your soul to another world. I know, we want to offer you to become a god. Naruto was stunned by the old man's words. Gee god. But why me? You are strong in body and soul. You wanted to bring peace to the earth, you are the ideal candidate. But Madara, we are equal to him in strength, why isn't he here then? You are strong, but you lack convolutions. Madara is the embodiment of evil chaos. Now he is in the most terrible place that can be, in hell. I have only one question. And what is young Uzumaki like? I will be able to return to Earth, to my village? Yes, but after training, even though you are strong, you still don't reach God. And how long will I study? About 5 years. 5 years? Yes. We shortened your training period in case you agreed, because we knew that you would want to go back. Well, thanks for that. Come on, I'll introduce you to the others. The 2 silhouettes dissolved into space. They found themselves in a huge room, somewhat similar to a throne room, although no, it was a throne room. It looked very decent, though somehow ancient. At the end, in the middle, there was a throne. As the blonde understood, it was made of stone, but there was one peculiarity in it. Some kind of matter flowed between the stones, reminiscent of chakra, light blue in color. In front of it there was a long table and small chairs on the sides, the same in composition as the main throne. A woman was sitting on the throne. She looked no more than 35 to 40 years old. She was very beautiful, but what immediately attracted the blonde was the horns, if you can call them that. They resembled rabbit ears. In her eyes there was a byakugan, and on her forehead there was something similar to a rinnegan with 6 tomo, only it was red. Further at the table sat some guy. Naruto didn't like him right away. Something was wrong with him. He looked like Madara, his hair and facial expression like I'm the coolest and strongest here. If I want, I'll beat everyone here. There were also a couple of other people sitting here unknown to Naruto. Hello Uzumaki Naruto, said the woman sitting on the throne. My name is Kagaya Otsutsuki, I am the supreme god. Hello Kagaya-sama. The blonde didn't expect such politeness from himself. Let me introduce you to everyone. This is Giro Boken, the warden of hell. Kagaya pointed at the guy who was pretending to be Madara or vice versa. Opposite him is Hamura Otsutsuki, my youngest son, the overseer and ruler of the moon. The goddess pointed to the man. He looked younger than Hagamoro. He had a byakugan. In appearance he was almost no different from the sage. You are already familiar with Hagamoro. He is my right hand, my eyes, he watches over the moon and hell. And now I ask you to answer, do you agree to join our guild and become a god? Yes, Naruto answered firmly. Uzumaki Naruto, I, Kagaya Otsutsuki, name you the god of the shinobi world. Uzumaki Naruto, I, Kagaya Otsutsuki, name you the god of the shinobi world. The blonde felt an extraordinary surge of strength. His eyes were slightly tingling, and on his left shoulder a tattoo appeared, which means earth, that is, a new headache of the newly made god. Naruto felt like never before. Energy was overflowing him. With just one wave of his hand he could demolish mountains. Congratulations, you are now one of us. Hagamoro will teach you to control this power, as well as new techniques. From now on he is your mentor. For now you are the weakest of us, but you have great potential, Uzumaki Naruto, said the goddess. What potential? He's a weakling. The warden of hell, Gyuro, began to be indignant. Gyuro! Kagaya growled at him. What? He won't even be able to touch me. He's a loser. I was against his joining. Jumping up from his seat, Gyuro had just started to get indignant again, when then... Shut up! Kagaya screamed and released so much chakra that Naruto felt uneasy. He realized that he shouldn't anger her, otherwise she wouldn't leave a wet spot even without putting in much effort. Gyuro immediately sat down and became quiet. He also understood that it was better not to anger the goddess. So, from this moment your training begins. Hagamoro, take Naruto to his quarters, Kagaya said as if nothing had happened. Good. Let's go, Naruto, said Rikudo, and headed for the exit. The blonde followed him. They didn't get there very quickly, winding through the corridors. Uzumaki remembered all the corridors and turns, so as not to get lost in these catacombs later. This is where your room will be, said the sage, pointing to the wooden door. Training will begin tomorrow morning. And also, be careful with Gyuro, he cannot be trusted. Then why don't you throw him out? He is the only one who can cope with hell, so we have to endure it, said Hagamoro and moved in the opposite direction. Naruto opened the door and entered the room. The blonde was simply stunned by what was behind the door. And there was something to be surprised about. Behind the door was not just an ordinary room, but another dimension. Behind it was a clearing with a small lake, in the middle of which stood a house. The house was of average size, but it looked simply gorgeous. Picking up his jaw and inserting his eyes, he moved inside. Behind the house was a training ground, which Naruto discovered while walking around his domain. He was quite impressed. Staying at the training ground, he decided to test his powers and how much they had now increased. I think it's worth trying some weak technique. Try something from the fire element, it's your weakest. The fox mentally addressed his Jinchuriki. That's an idea, Naruto said and began to perform a series of seals. Idiot, stop. Kurama tried to stop the blonde, but it was too late. Katon, Jiukei Mekyaku. The newly minted god released an unrealistically huge wall of flame. It was 10 times larger than a normal one. It demolished almost the entire training ground and the properties closest to it. Miraculously, the house survived. Oh my! Naruto was simply stunned. What? But he definitely did not expect this. I told you, you're a fool! Yeah, Uzumaki Naruto, the The blonde turned towards the voice and saw Kagaya. That's why you need to learn to control your power. Cast the concentration seal and everything will be restored. Uzumaki did everything as she said and everything he destroyed began to recover. Naruto was surprised. Now if something is demolished it will be possible to restore it. Yes, I myself did not expect this. I specifically chose the fire technique because it is the weakest for me. Now if I had chosen the wind, said Naruto, mentally imagining the scale of the destruction. If only it were so. Did you want something, Kagaya-sama? Uzumaki asked. Just let's do it without suffixes. Yes. I have a proposal for you. We extracted Jubi from Madara after his death, and it needs to be sealed. We can't just leave it like that. Dividing it like Hagamoro did is also not the way. Wars will start again because of their power. Do you want to suggest sealing it inside me? Yes and no at the same time. We'll merge them with Kurama, said Kagaya, shocking the blonde and the fox at the same time. Don't worry about your friend. His mind, thoughts and everything else will remain. Only his strength and the number of tails will increase. The prospect is good, in principle, I'm not against it. The fox gave his verdict. We agree, Naruto replied. Okay, we'll start tomorrow. And warn Hagamoro that training is postponed for 2 days, said the goddess and disappeared. Yeah, the fun days have begun, Naruto said heading into the house. He needed to think and digest everything that had befallen him that day. Naruto woke up early in the morning. Not a very cheerful day was waiting for him. Getting up, the blonde found clothes on a chair that stood near the bed. After going to the shower, he tried on his new clothes. They looked very decent, only somehow gloomy, a black jacket and pants with sandals. Naruto decided to wear only the black jacket and sandals out of all this. Going to the kitchen, he rummaged through the nightstands and found what he madly desired: instant ramen. The blonde's joy knew no bounds. After eating a couple of packs he went outside. The weather, as Naruto realized, was not changing here. It was a beautiful sunny day. Going out to the clearing, he decided to practice and again at the same time smash something. Anyway, Kagaya would come for him only in 2 hours. Having warmed up, Uzumaki decided to practice some technique. So, what technique should I use? The young man asked himself. Better none at all, the fox said sleepily in his subconscious. Why Ku? Naruto asked the fox. In your position and with your brain activity, it's dangerous for everything in the area. Why is that? You know, sometimes I even doubt whether you have a brain at all, Kurama said tiredly. I'm not stupid. The blonde boiled over. But this still needs to be proven. The fox persisted. You're such a tattered rug. Okay. That's enough jokes. Try something weak, I repeat, especially for blondes weak. Shut up, animal, I understood without you. SOSO, something weak maybe this? Naruto began to fold the seals. Stop. Kurama stopped him. Well, what's wrong again, huh? Burning everything didn't work, so you decided to drown everything? What are you thinking? Don't use techniques higher than rank, eh? The fox exhaled discontentedly. I hardly know any of them. Although wait, there are a couple. Naruto said contentedly and began to make a series of seals. Futon wave! A wave of air swept away the nearest trees and the floor of a small park. Doton split! What can I say, the rest of the square went underground, but Uzumaki didn't even think of stopping. Kato, big fireball! It wasn't just a big fireball, it was just a huge ball of fire, but unfortunately, when it collided with it, the pond disappeared. Suten, geyser! Now Naruto has a personal hot spring, right in the place where the square went underground. I see you're having fun here. The blonde turned around and saw Kagaya and Hagamoro. Yes, there is not much, Uzumaki said and folded the seal of concentration. Everything began to recover. Is it time already? Yes, but I'll warn you right away, the process is short, but very painful, especially for you. The fox will immediately pass out, said Kagaya. It's okay, I can handle it. Well then, follow us, Naruto, said Hagamoro, and the three of them headed towards the exit. After walking through a couple of corridors, they entered a hall, where the 10-tailed beast lay chained with huge chains. It was angry and tried to escape in various ways. So Naruto, take off your jacket and t-shirt, and open the seal, but not all the way, said Kagaya. The young man did everything as he was told. So we'll do the rest ourselves, Hagamoro spoke up. They stood on both sides, around Naruto, and began to quickly make seals, but their seals were slightly different. The blonde was surprised by the speed with which they produced them. Omayatan, sealing technique, energy extraction. Kagaya was the first to name the technique. Chakra began to flow out of Jubi's mouth and eye, forming a kind of circle around Naruto. Creation technique, fusion. After the sage named the technique, Naruto cried out in pain and passed out. The chakra was completely drawn into him. The goddess did not waste time and quickly closed the seal. Yotan, seal of heaven. Now all that's left is to wait. I hope Naruto and Kurama can handle this power, Hagamoro said. They will cope, because there is even a prophecy about them on Earth, said the goddess. Yes, I remember him. Taking Naruto in his arms, Rikudo carried him to his domain, so that if anything happened, he would look after him, and also help him and the fox get used to the new power that they would gain. Entering the house, Hagamoro put Uzumaki on the bed and went to the window. It was night outside. You will become the great Uzumaki, Naruto. The main thing is that you choose the right path, said God, looking at the starry sky. Sighing tiredly, after all, the technique is high level, the god's powers are not unlimited either. Hagamoro went to his chambers to rest, because tomorrow the training will begin, which will last for 5 whole years. Naruto woke up around noon the next day. He felt just fine, despite yesterday's procedure. Looking around, Uzumaki realized that he was not in his own house, but in some other one. I see you've already woken up, said Hagoromo, who was sitting on a chair by the far wall, which the blonde hadn't noticed before. Yeah, I feel just great, Naruto said. Good, so the fusion went well. What about Kurama? Asked the sage. I'll take a look now. Having said this, Naruto descended into his subconscious. In the subconscious. Kurama, where are you? Kurama! The blonde fox began to call. I'm here, Naruto. The young man turned around and saw the fox. Kurama? Who else? You've changed, Naruto said in shock. And you thought I would stay the same? Kurama asked. Of course, he looked different. The fox was almost the size of Jubi, and his coloring had also changed. Now Kurama was black. Previously, the inside of his ears was black and went to his eyes, but now it was painted red. The number of tails had also changed. There were 11 of them. The eyes were black in color, and the pupil was red. The 11-tailed looked majestic. No, I thought a couple of tails would be added and that's it, but not like this, Naruto exclaimed. Yes, you have changed too, not externally, but internally. Your chakra circulation system has completely changed. It has become larger. Many new channels have appeared. Yes? I didn't even notice. You know, I'm not even surprised by this, the fox said mockingly. Are you starting again? I'm already finished. Everyone disappear. Hagoromo is already waiting for you, said Kurama and pushed Uzumaki out of the subconscious. Well? How is Kurama? Asked the sage. Everything is fine, he has changed a lot, Naruto answered. And how so? Hagoromo asked. The blonde briefly described the fox's appearance. Yes, it's impressive. Well, now have breakfast and go to the training ground. I'll wait for you there, said Rikudo and left the room. After eating a couple of packs of ramen for breakfast, the young man went to the training ground, where Hagoromo was already waiting for him. Well, Naruto, shall we begin our training? Yes. What techniques will we learn? Naruto asked enthusiastically. None yet, answered Rikudo. The blonde fell into a stupor. Why? First, we'll look at your new powers and abilities, then we'll develop a training method, and so on. So, do you know the easiest way to dispel genjutsu? After an affirmative nod, he continued. That's good, stand there. Hagoromo pointed to the middle of the training ground. Now abruptly stop your chakra flow, and then just as abruptly resume it. Understood? Yes, Naruto answered. Having stopped the flow of chakra, the young man suddenly resumed it. It turned out to be something like the Rinnegan technique, Shinra Tensei. In a radius of 30 meters around the blonde there was nothing, everything was swept away by the bursting flow of chakra. At 30 centimeters, chakra was swirling around him in a whirlwind dark scarlet in color. Your chakra has an interesting color, and not only that, its power is impressive. Your reserve is now about equal to mine, said Hagoromo, watching Naruto. Cool. So, now go into your so-called sage mode. Let's see how it has changed, and after you go into it, you will remain like that forever. You could say it will be your new appearance. Good. Sage mode, rise of the six paths. Naruto was enveloped in a black sphere. 2 minutes later it dissipated. Naruto's appearance changed. The shinobi's hair turned pale, and the clothes were completely different from what he was wearing before. Uzumaki wore a red cloak just below the knees with a high collar. On the back of it were depicted 6 tomo, and just above concentric circles black, reminiscent of Rinnegan. He also had on a black jacket, black pants, and such shinobi sandals. On his neck was a necklace of 6 tomo dark red. A protector appeared on Naruto's head, in the upper corners of which were small shoots resembling horns, 5 centimeters long. In the middle of it was the Kaji, path. Rinnegan burned in his eyes, but a little different. On the first 2 circles there were 3 tomo. He also had tattoos on his palms like Hagoromo, on the left one in the form of a crescent moon, and on the right one a circle. This is amazing, Naruto. You are almost an exact copy of me in my youth, the sage said admiringly, and then smiled slyly and continued. Maybe we can have a sparring match and see how strong you are? I agree, Naruto said and suddenly disappeared from sight. Rikudo didn't even notice, his speed was simply unthinkable. The sage smiled slyly and continued. Maybe we can have a sparring match and see how strong you are? Agreed, Naruto said and suddenly disappeared from sight. Rikudo did not even notice it, his speed was simply unthinkable. Uzumaki suddenly moved behind God's back and just wanted to strike with his foot. But somehow he disappeared and his foot cut through the air. You are very fast, Naruto, Hagoromo said, standing behind the shinobi. But I'm faster. The sage moved close to Naruto and raised his hand to strike, but something happened that Rikudo did not expect. Naruto with a sharp movement intercepted his hand and pulled it towards himself, then moving away a little, Uzumaki turned around and kicked him. The sage flew back a couple of meters and crashed into a tree. Hagoromo-sama, never underestimate your opponent, Naruto said, looking at God. Yeah, you're right, but how do you like this? Hagoromo had a staff in his hand. Omitan, weapon of God. The staff transformed into a black katana. Naruto followed the sage's manipulations and decided to repeat. Summoning the staff, he transformed his katana, but it was different from the one that Rikudo had. The katana was black except for the blade and the handle. They were scarlet. Well, it's quite impressive, but do you know how to use it? Asked Hagoromo. No problem, I'll practice now, Naruto replied, running wind chakra through the blade. Well, let's begin. The 2 gods took off at breakneck speed. Their katanas touched exactly in the middle of the training ground. After their contact, a shock wave passed through the training ground, knocking down a couple of trees along the way. The sword fight continued for a long time. They appeared in one place or another. It was almost impossible to notice them. Their speed was enormous. It was visible only where their katanas touched. 2 silhouettes were watching all this, Kagaya and Giro. Incredible, he is not inferior in strength to Hagoromo. Kagaya was surprised, although she knew that Naruto would be strong, but not to this extent. Hagoromo is already an old man, that's why. Giro had just started to speak when Kagaya interrupted him. You're wrong, Hagoromo may look like an old man, but he's the strongest, almost the strongest of us. That is... Yes, Hagoromo is almost equal to me in strength. Giro was shocked. This newbie is so strong. No problem, Naruto Uzumaki, you'll still dance for me, the Warden of Hell said mentally. At this time, the battle at the training ground was gaining momentum. Naruto, do you remember those balls, Gudadama? The fox asked Naruto. I'm a little busy, Kurama, I remember that. Summon them, or at least one, and transform into a second katana. Why? I can barely manage with just one. Listen to the end and don't interrupt. Jump away from him about 30 meters, then do the same as you launched a wave of wind from the kunai. only now charge them with my chakra. Let's try now. Naruto, having repelled Hagoromo's last attack, jumped back further. The sage carefully watched Uzumaki's actions. 6 black balls appeared behind the blonde's back. Naruto moved his left hand to the side and one ball immediately flew up to it, which in a few seconds transformed into the same katana, only it had a different color. The blade with the handle was black, and everything else was red. Bright scarlet chakra passed along the blades of the katanas. Naruto crossed his swords for a long-range attack. What will you call the technique? Senpo, Fangs of Fury. 2 arched, crossed waves of bright red color burst from the blades and flew towards the sage. What kind of technique is this? Rikudo was very surprised by this technique. In all the time that he watched Naruto, he never used it, which means that he created it right now. Summon 5 gates of Rashomon. 5 huge walls resembling gates, which were located in a row, instantly appeared in front of Hagoromo. Having crashed into the gates, the technique demolished them all, but noticeably reduced their power, and the sage was able to redirect them with his sword. But this was not very easy for him. The technique was redirected upward, where it exploded after a few seconds. Yes, Naruto, your technique is very strong, but how do you like this? Hagoromo stuck the katana into the ground and began to fold the seals. Intan, blue flame. A large wall of blue fire flew at the blonde. What the? Uzumaki was shocked. He had never seen such a technique anywhere, so he didn't understand what to counter it with. Use Tendo, Shinra Tensei. Naruto produced a huge burst of energy that dispersed the wall of flames and destroyed everything within a radius of 500 meters. When the dust cleared, the gods stood opposite each other. The distance between them was about 200 meters. I'm a little out of breath, said the blonde and scattered the swords from Gudadam. You still don't handle your new power well, said Rikudo. Yeah, we certainly destroyed everything here. Hagoromo looked around the area from the crater that formed after Naruto's technique. Yes, we've done a lot of damage here, said the blonde and scratched the back of his head, also looking at the destruction. Well, it's okay, said Hagoromo and folded the seal, and everything was instantly restored. Now I know where to start your training, and now it's time to rest, said the sage and headed into the house with Naruto. At this time, not far from the battle site. Naruto Uzumaki, you are very strong. I did not expect this. You can interfere with my plan, you and this damn Hagomoro, idealists, saviors of the world. I have too little strength now to oppose you, but nothing. In 5 years, I will show who Kagaya Otsutsuki is. I will take revenge on you Hagoromo and Homura, for my imprisonment. I will never forget this, and if you take their side, Uzumaki Naruto, then the same fate awaits you. But for now study and become stronger to try to resist me. The silhouette of the goddess disappeared from sight. From that moment on, Naruto's long and painful training began. 5 years have passed since Naruto began his training. During all this time, he has matured and become much stronger and wiser. The latter was difficult for him. Now, as an exam, Naruto will have to fight with one of the representatives of the guild, that is, with one of the gods. Hagoromo refused, since he trained Naruto and knows all the strengths and weaknesses of the guy. During negotiations and bickering, Gyuro was chosen. The fight was to take place at noon. Naruto was preparing for the fight mentally, physically he was ready. In Naruto's subconscious. The main thing is not to be stupid, otherwise you'll screw everything up again. Concentrate, find out his weak points. I understand, I've had enough of lecturing. If I hadn't lectured you, you wouldn't have been able to do anything. Kurama! What Kurama? I've been Kurama for hundreds of years. It's not my fault that you're a ram. Oh my god! You've gone crazy, you're talking to yourself. Go to hell. I can't joke anymore. By the way, it's time for you to go. Yeah, well, shall we kick his ass? Of course. Coming out of the subconscious, the young man gathered everything he needed and throwing on a cloak, moved to the so-called arena. Almost reaching it, Naruto met Gyuro. Looking at Naruto with contempt, he said, You better give up right now if you don't want to die, now for good. Heh, be careful that I don't sweat you like a fly. How are you? At this time Homura approached them. Well, are you ready? Yes, answered Gyuro. Yeah. Naruto said monotonously. That's good, come in. Naruto's gaze opened up to a huge arena. Only 3 people were in the audience: Hagoromo, Hamura, and Kagaya. Standing opposite each other, the 2 gods began to wait for the fight to begin. Having summoned the staff and Gudadama, Naruto waited for the start of the fight to be announced, while keeping an eye on his opponent. Uzumaki Naruto, in this fight we will test whether you are worthy of being called God, the goddess said, standing up from her seat. Are you ready? They nodded in response. Then I declare the start of the duel. The opponents stood and waited to see who would attack first. A tense aura hung over the arena. Gyuro was the first to break down. If you don't want to, then I'll attack first. Element of darkness, road to hell. Large black chains burst out from under the ground and rushed towards the blonde. Naruto repelled them with only a splash of chakra and grinned and said, Is that all the Warden of Hell is capable of? He deliberately tried to irritate Gyuro so that he would make some mistake or get distracted. Don't get too carried away, brat. Inton, breath of death. Gyuro exhaled something like steam or black smoke. This cloud quickly spread across the arena and moved towards the guy. Naruto, don't inhale this smoke, it's very poisonous. This technique kills all living things. It won't kill you, but it will definitely paralyze you, the fox instructed. Futon, divine wind. Uzumaki exhaled a strong stream of wind, which began to disperse the poisonous fog. So Gyuro decided to play big. What did you expect, for me to fuss over you like a child? The brunette replied. Gyuro, don't forget about the plan, don't give in to his provocations. On my command, use that technique, a female voice said in Boken's head. Now it's my turn, Naruto shouted. Senpo Biju's wrath. Uzumaki put his hand forward, in the form of a gun. Parallel to the extended fingers, a small scarlet ball began to form, stolen from Bleach. When the ball reached the required size, he shot a beam, like Zero. Gyuro tried to dodge the attack, but he was still caught. His left hand was slightly burned. When the beam touched the arena wall, an explosion occurred. You should have shot more accurately, idiot, Kurama said. Damn, that was close. A little more and I'm done for. Kagaya was right. He's become very strong, Gyuro thought, holding his hand. Enough playing around. Flame element, fire god. A black and red flame in the shape of a dragon's head flew at Naruto. Uzumaki jumped sharply to the side and began to perform a series of seals. The art of seals, fire absorption. But the attempt to seal the fire failed miserably. At this time Gyuro sent 4 more dragons at the blonde. Why don't you use the Rinnegan? Hagoromo said to himself. Damn, I didn't want to use it, but… Naruto put his hand with the staff forward. It began to quickly spin clockwise. All the heads that were sent by Gyuro disappeared upon collision with it. Gyuro, it's time! Suddenly, Boken began to quickly form seals. Uzumaki prepared to defend himself. Omayatan, eternal glimpse. It suddenly became dark. Even dojutsu didn't help. Naruto couldn't see anything. All his heightened senses were dulled. The fox couldn't help him either. Suddenly, the darkness retreated sharply and a terrifying picture opened up to the blonde. Gyuro, it's time! Suddenly, Boken began to quickly fold seals. Uzumaki was already prepared to defend against the enemy's technique. Omayatan, eternal glimpse. It suddenly became dark. Even dojutsu didn't help. Naruto couldn't see anything. All his heightened senses were dulled. The fox couldn't help the blonde in any way. Something was blocking him. Suddenly, the darkness abruptly retreated and a terrifying picture opened up to the blonde. He couldn't believe what was happening. Naruto simply didn't understand how this could happen. The following picture appeared before his eyes. Kagaya was standing at the edge of the arena. 2 bodies were lying next to her, Hamura and Hagoromo. The gods were wounded. They couldn't move and were on the verge of death. Maybe you will say, how can the gods die? After all, they are immortal. Yes, they are immortal. They cannot die. They can simply disappear, evaporate, as if they never existed at all. Of course, a simple person can't kill them, but another god is quite capable of this. 2 bone pins came out of the goddess's hands, pointing them at Hamura and Hagoromo. She didn't hesitate for a second and pierced her sons. Their bodies began to crumble like corpses resurrected by Edo Tensei, crumbling like plaster. Naruto looked at what was happening, unable to utter a word. The only thing he could say was, "Why?" The young man still couldn't believe what was happening. He couldn't believe that his mentor, his friend, was no longer there. Naruto had the same feeling as when he learned about Jiraiya's death. Something inside him broke. Hagoromo had become a close, dear person for Uzumaki in 5 years, and now he was gone. Why? Why? I don't believe it. How could she? In response, Naruto heard the angry growl of the fox, and before his eyes stood the silhouette of a smiling old man. Kagaya's voice brought him out of his stupor. Why? Do you want to know why I killed them? There was no answer. Okay, I'll tell you my story and how my own sons sealed their own mother. Let's start with the fact that I was born before the hidden villages were founded, during the endless wars between humanity. To stop this, I decided to be the first to eat the forbidden fruit from the god tree and acquired the ability to control the so-called chakra. Having received it, I single-handedly stopped the war. After some time, I had 2 sons, Hagoromo and Hamura. As it turned out, they inherited my power. You understand my power. I wanted to take the chakra from them, but someone took it and hid it. I searched for them for many years, and now I was completely desperate. Emotions took over me and I, in a fit of rage, turned into Jubi. My search was crowned with success. After decades I found them, in some abandoned village. I had a chance to take back what belongs to me. But these brats learned to use it. They used my power to save these pathetic people. I was very angry. We started to fight. I was ready to kill them to get my power back, but Hamura and Hagoromo managed to defeat me. They sealed me in Shibaku Tensei and sent me to another dimension. And so, thanks to the power that flows in our veins, we became gods. I understood perfectly well that it was not worth going on the attack now, since I was too weak and I needed time to fully recover, so I pretended to have lost my memory. And so, after so many years, I took revenge on them and took back my powers. In general, that's all. The goddess finished her story and looked carefully at Naruto. She expected angry cries or something like that. But no, for the entire story, not a single muscle twitched on Uzumaki's face. After a few moments, Naruto turned his gaze to the goddess. Pain, hatred, contempt could be seen in his eyes. How, after all this, can you be considered a mother, a god? You just killed your children without regret, and for what? For power? What do you need it for? Why then did you make me a god? Uzumaki spoke quietly, with notes of steel in his voice. Why? It was just my whim and Hagoromo's request. At that moment I was still saving up my strength, and I didn't care. You are just an arrogant, lying, selfish creature. Naruto, unable to contain himself, burst into a scream. So what now? You got the power, what next? And then I will do what I didn't do a long time ago and what my descendant couldn't do. I will plunge the world into an eternal illusion. I will pump out all the chakra from everyone and I will rule the world. After these words the blonde simply lost the gift of speech. And if you stop me, I will destroy all the people close to you. Hell no! I'll stop you! Especially since you need all the power of Jubi. And that's it. In order to regain your former power and plunge the world into illusion, you needed a temporary vessel for the power of the Ten-tailed, since Gedo couldn't withstand it. You're a smart one, little Naruto. But you can't do it all alone, you're still too weak. You killed them only because of this technique, they just didn't have time to understand anything. You never cease to amaze me. Yes, you are right. I will only manage everything from above, the rest will be done by Giro with the sinners. But in order to absorb all the chakra I need the relics that are scattered throughout the world. And where to look, as I understand it, you don't have the slightest idea, Naruto said mockingly. If so, then I will not allow this world to perish again, you will not receive the relics. You can tell your insignificant people that I declare war on them, let them at least fight for their existence. Naruto's silhouette began to dissolve. Before disappearing completely he said, Remember me Kagaya Otsutsuki, for I am your death. In general, this is where my story comes to an end, so war is inevitable. Naruto finished his story. All the shinobi in the office were plunged into deep shock. They more or less digested the fact that Naruto was a god, and that war was not far off. Having digested the information, Kakashi asked the question that interested everyone. How much time do we have? A month and a half, no more, the blonde answered. Yes, there is catastrophically little time. What do you think you will do, Naruto? Asked Sasuke. What should we do? We need to fight. No, well, of course we have to give battle. Give battle to the gods. The gods. Uzumaki, do you even understand what you're saying? They'll roll us into the ground. Even after becoming a god, you didn't become smarter. Uchiha, if I didn't have a plan, I wouldn't have started talking about the fight right away. What's your plan? Shikamaru asked. Kakashi-sensei, I need to take 3 people from the village for a month, even for Sasuke, Hinata, Sakura and Shikamaru. I will teach them techniques and everything else. We will become the main military potential in this war. No matter how terrible it sounds, but it is so, Naruto said. But why them? Kakashi asked. Because they are most suitable for transmitting Kurama's power. What do you mean? Hinata didn't understand. You will become a pseudo-Jinchuriki. Uzumaki's words made the 4 fall into a stupor. Do you want to give us some of the Nine-Tails' power? Well, not exactly nine-tailed, of course. He hasn't been nine-tailed for 5 years. But yes, you're right, Shikamaru. The blonde answered. What do you mean not quite? Asked Sakura. Okay, I'll show you now, Naruto said, and everyone present in the office disappeared. Uzumaki moved everyone outside of Konoha. No one understood what exactly the blonde wanted to show them. So, to start with, I'll put up a barrier to scare the villagers, said Naruto, and began to fold the seals. The art of seals, impenetrable barrier. The clearing where the shinobi were located was surrounded by a rather large barrier. So, the blonde walked away from the shinobi about 10 meters and turned to face them. Summoning the demon. I want to introduce you to. Kurama appeared from a huge cloud of smoke. Kurama, the former nine-tailed fox demon. Yeah, the jaws of these shinobi, breaking through the ground, flew out the other side. They silently looked at the giant fox, unable to utter a word. Well, everyone except Sasuke. And Naruto, why does he have 11 tails? There are 11 of them, since my power was combined with the power of Jubi. Kurama answered for Naruto. It's true that there will soon be fewer of them. The blonde added in a whisper, so that only the fox heard him. That explains everything, although no, it doesn't explain a damn thing. What you told me still doesn't fit in my head, and then there's the fox with 11 tails. Sasuke said. Tima, you'll start to get hysterical, and soon you'll stop being surprised when you realize what a situation we've found ourselves in. But how will you make pseudo-Jinchuriki out of us? Nara asked. How? Very simple. Kurama and I, or rather he himself, will give a decent amount of chakra, while losing some, Naruto said with a grin. Well, it doesn't matter, so what am I? Oh yeah, I'll take this chakra and transform it for each of you. Then I'll just seal it, but that's not all. After sealing, Kurama will begin to increase the chakra channels in each of you, and this process is quite painful, but bearable. Then I'll take you under my command. Something like that. God finished his speech. And when did you become so smart, Uzumaki? Sakura asked, smiling. As Sakura, death changes people, Naruto said with a bitter grin. Well, let's not talk about sad things. Today everyone rest, and tomorrow is workdays. After recalling Kurama, Naruto transported everyone back to the Hokage's residence. And also, Kakashi-sensei, I ask that you not let anyone else in on this secret for now, except for the Kage. Okay, Naruto. Now you can go free. Approaching the brunette, Uzumaki said, Hinata, do you mind taking a walk? I missed you madly and want to spend this whole day with you. I don't mind, Naruto. I miss you a lot too, answered Hugo, and leaving the residence, they held hands and headed towards the park. The guild's throne room. You called Kaguya-sama. Yes, I have a task for you. You must kidnap Hinata Hyuga. I will carry out your order. And one more thing. Tonari, you have to do this without any noise. Yes, sir, said Tonari and disappeared. Night had fallen in Konoha. Lanterns were burning in the streets. Everyone was probably already dreaming their 10th dream. Only in the Hokage's residence the light was still burning. There was a discussion of further actions in relation to the war. In the office there were 3 shinobi: Sasuke, Naruto, and the Hokage himself. So you will create something like a team and will look for these relics, did I understand correctly? Hatake asked. Yes, you understood everything correctly. We must find the relics first and then she will come to us herself and we will be ready, answered Naruto, standing facing the window. But wouldn't it be easier for her to first plunge the world into Tsukuyomi and then find these relics? Sasuke asked. Yes, of course it's easier, but there's one catch. And what kind? Kakashi asked, leaning his elbows on the table and clasping his hands. It's me. I can dispel the illusion with my Rinnegan, so she'll want to get rid of me first, and then do her job. But you are also God, which means that in terms of strength you are almost equal. No, Sasuke, if we count at the moment then I am on par with her. But when she accumulates strength, then I alone will not be able to cope with her. Yes, I understand you, why didn't I attack right away? Turning around and seeing affirmative nods, Naruto continued. Gyuro would most likely intervene in the fight, and that would not be in my interests. So I decided to wait, and I don't argue, it will be much more difficult, but I won't be alone, our team, plus the alliance, we can easily win. Yes, Naruto, you are unrecognizable neither by your external appearance nor by your internal appearance, you have changed a lot, said Sasuke. Well, in a way that's good, the blonde said, smiling. I wonder, since you are a god, how much stronger have you become? Uchiha asked, to which Naruto answered with a sigh. Team, you don't change, you always think about strength. How strong are you? Well, my regular Rasengan is comparable in power to a small Biju bomb. Sasuke's eyes almost popped out of their sockets from this statement. Kakashi was thinking about something of his own. When will you set out? Around tomorrow, around noon. The blonde answered Sensei's question. Naruto, if you look at it that way, you're no longer a god, Sasuke said with a cheerful grin, which was very strange for him. Why is that? You left paradise. Uchiha especially emphasized the last words. Well, if you can call that place that. And? Now you are fallen. That sounds good, Naruto said thoughtfully, then he turned sharply to the window and looked intently somewhere into the distance. What happened? Hatake asked. Someone is heading towards the village. The power level is about Sannin, maybe higher, answered Uzumaki. And he's heading. Damn. The blonde disappeared in a flash, without saying anything else. Kakashi and Sasuke didn't quite understand where he was heading, but they followed him. Tonari moved towards the village, while completely hiding his chakra. Almost reaching the wall behind which the Hyuga domain was supposed to be, he heard an unfamiliar voice. They've gathered far away. Tonari turned around at the stranger's voice. I assume you are Uzumaki Naruto? That's right, and also the one who will beat your face and if you don't explain what you need in Konoha. I need Hyuga Hinata. These words made Naruto want to wipe him off the face of the earth. And why, if it's not a secret? This is a direct order from Kaguya. Most likely she will face death. Ha, you're a dead boy. The fox's voice rang out in the blonde's head. You better leave on good terms, otherwise. So what? Tonari smiled wryly. Apparently they didn't tell him who he was, and in vain. A moment and Naruto is already standing in front of Tonari. Another moment and he is sent flying, and in pursuit of him flies Rasen Shuriken charged with chakra of light. A flash of light, a strong explosion shook the walls of the barrier, previously set up by the blonde. Approaching the funnel, Naruto saw Tonari. He looked of course terrible. If you want to live, then get out of here, said the blonde. And tell Kaguya that another such prank and she will be in trouble. Oh okay, Tonari answered somehow. Then he opened a portal and disappeared from sight. At that moment, Sasuke and Kakashi appeared nearby. You could at least tell me where you're going, Sasuke said. There was no time, he came for Hinata, and that means Kaguya has started to act, so we have little time. Tomorrow we set out in the morning and on the way we will look into the maelstrom, and maybe even stop there. The place is quite suitable for training, Naruto said and disappeared. Early in the morning, the team of 4 people was already standing at the gates of Konoha, ready to set off at any moment. Everyone had hiking backpacks, well, almost everyone except Uzumaki. Is everyone ready? Everyone nodded in response. Okay, it's 3 days' journey to the maelstrom. We'll start training on the way. Is everything clear to everyone? Hi! Then let's go! The group of shinobi set off, and in a few seconds they had already disappeared into the forest. They were heading to Yuzushiogakure, or village hidden in the whirlpool. It was a village of shinobi from the land of whirlpools. The ninja of this village were known for their sealing techniques Fuinjutsu. Because of this, the shinobi of this village scared other shinobi, which subsequently led to the destruction of the village during the war. Those who survived were forced to hide, and eventually they were scattered throughout the world. The people of this village were unusually resilient and hardy, and were also long-lived. For this, the village received the nickname Village of Longevity. The village was located on an island off the coast of the Land of Fire. The Uzumaki clan lived on the territory of this village. Closer to midday, the group decided to make a stop and rest, because Naruto was too fast and they could hardly keep up with him. The shinobi stopped on the shore of some lake. Rest for 10 minutes, and then I'll explain what the training will consist of, Naruto said and headed towards the tree. You want our death, Uzumaki? Sakura howled. Compared to what awaits you, this is just a warm-up, the blonde said with a satisfied grin. All three shinobi fell under a tree. Because they had almost no strength, they covered the distance in a few hours, which an ordinary shinobi covers only in a day. Having stripped to the waist, Naruto went to the lake. Where are you going? Asked Nara. I'll practice while you rest. And where does he get so much energy from? Entering the water surface, Uzumaki teleported to the middle of the lake. Everyone directed their gaze at the blonde and waited to see what he was going to do. Meanwhile, Naruto took a deep breath and closed his eyes. 10 seconds later, the shinobi simply watched the guy with their mouths open. When Naruto opened his eyes, it was accompanied by a surge of chakra, and the water around him began to rise in columns. It looked impressive. Do you want to try that technique? Remember what happened last time? It's terrible, I know, but now it should work. If it works with water, then maybe it will work with other elements too. After standing like that for a minute, the water had already stopped gushing. Naruto put his right hand forward, right in the direction of the 4. Seconds passed but nothing happened. Uzumaki raised his hand up, and at that very second a huge water dragon flew out of the lake into the sky. It was the size of a one-tailed one. The dragon flew high up. Uzumaki returned his hand to its previous position, and the dragon, like a puppet, flew in the direction that the blonde pointed, that is, in the direction of the 4. From this, the shinobi's eyes almost popped out of their sockets, of course, when such a colossus is rushing at you. Sasuke had almost activated Susanoo, but the dragon turned sharply to the left. And now the hardest part, come on Naruto, hit that hill, the fox commanded in his subconscious. The dragon opened his not small mouth, and a large water ball began to form near it. The ball suddenly began to glow with a bluish glow. Hayatan, the dragon released this ball towards the hill. As it approached, the ball decreased in size, but the glow became brighter. Hayagaseya. When the sphere met the hill, there was a bright flash, then a shock wave spread out, but it did not demolish or destroy anything. Everything that was behind it turned into ice. This shock wave spread out over a diameter of 30 meters. The spectators were amazed by such a sight. They looked from Naruto to the icy hill. The dragon had already evaporated by this moment. Yes, this is my limit for now. It's hard to simultaneously control the form, pour and mix wind and water chakra, while holding the dragon. This is already better than last time, when the sphere exploded above you. Yes, it was quite a sight. Naruto teleported to his friends. Well, have you rested? Said the blonde, sitting down next to them. What was that? Hinata asked. I'll tell you later. And now I'll briefly explain to you what you'll be studying. So let's start with you, my dear, Naruto said, sitting down next to Hinata and hugging her. While I was in the guild, I found several scrolls from Hamura Otsutsuki. They said how to remove your Byakugan blind spot through training. There were also several very interesting techniques. Hand of Retribution, 316 Heavenly Strikes, Crescent Strike, and Panther. There were others, but I'll tell you about them later. So now Shikamaru, I won't say much, I'll just say one thing. I'll teach you Intan, since Shadow Theater is one of his techniques. Intan? Darkness Element. So Sakura, I will teach you, Idaina Ishi. Thanks to it, you will become a first-class medic, which probably has not existed in the last 100 years, and we will see your predisposition to other elements. Team, I learned from Hagoromo that there are 2 types of Sharingan, the one you have and the Neto Sharingan. Of course, you can't tell by its appearance. They look identical, only the color is opposite. Only Neto is an order of magnitude more powerful, both regular and Manjikyu. I will also teach you, Aoi Hano. That's all for now, this is the main thing, and then we'll see. I will not torture you today, you can rest. We will move out tomorrow morning, Naruto said, hugging Hinata tighter. Closer to evening, the friends finished discussing the upcoming training and just sat and discussed old times. It was already getting dark. Naruto made a fire, it looked quite interesting. When the branches were already collected in a pile, Sasuke decided to light the fire. Having already made the tiger seal, he wanted to breathe out flame, but the blonde stopped him. Stop, team, otherwise you'll burn everything here, branches and all. Well, do it yourself then, if you're so smart. Naruto stood up, walked over to the brushwood and raised his right hand to shoulder level. As you say, his hand, or rather his wrist, caught fire with a blue flame. He sharply waved his hand towards the branches and they flared up. The fire was blue, it did not burn, a pleasant warmth emanated from it. Well, that's it, said Uzumaki, sitting back down next to Hinata. Silence fell, everyone sat and looked at the flame, each thinking about something of their own. The silence was broken by the blonde, turning towards the lake. And how did we deserve such an honor that the warden of hell himself, Giro Boken, appeared to us? Everyone looked at Uzumaki with incomprehension, but seeing where Naruto was looking, they turned to the lake. On the surface of the water stood a man. Somewhat similar to Madara, as it seemed to many, he was dressed in a black cloak, which hid him, everything except his face. And you are still such an insolent brat, but I will fix that. Then if it weren't for Kagaya, you would already be a corpse, Giro said with a grin. And you're still just as self-confident. Sasuke began to reach out to Kusanagi, but the blonde stopped him. Sasuke, he is not your level, so sit quietly. Naruto stood up and wanted to head towards the lake, but Hinata stopped him. He'll be careful. Naruto smiled and went to meet his opponent. When he moved a couple of meters away, a yellow barrier began to form around the shinobi. Are you worried about this scum? God said mockingly. One more word and no one will be able to recognize you, Naruto said coldly. When the blonde walked onto the lake, swords appeared in his hands, and 7 Gudadama behind his back. Boken threw off his cloak. He was dressed in black and gold armor, with a gold katana hanging by his side. Am I really so strong that you even put on armor? Naruto mocked God. Ha, don't get cocky, kid, you may be the same god as me, but you're weaker. I'm not God anymore, Uzumaki said, moving sharply towards Gyuro. He foresaw this and managed to block the katana's blow. I am the fallen, Naruto said and sharply spun around his axis, wanting to strike with the second sword. Boken didn't have time to block it and simply jumped away from the blonde, making seals in flight. Katon, fire rain! Something like meteorites began to fall from the sky, each one exploding as it fell. The lake was filled with steam mixed with smoke, from which the name of the technique was heard. Sutan, geyser. The water from the lake began to rise in columns. Gyuro had to dodge every now and then. Having dodged the last one, he landed on the opposite bank. And you want to defeat me with these techniques? No, but nevertheless I made you run, didn't I? Naruto said with a mocking smile. How could you? Anton, incineration. A black flame flew at the blonde. Naruto, dodge! Sasuke shouted from behind the barrier. Uzumaki didn't even move, he just stood there and watched as Amaterasu flew at him. Futon, breath of the sky dragon. A strong gust of wind simply blew away the flame, throwing it aside. So why did you come? Finish what you started. And now enough of these childish techniques. God answered. As you say, blades appeared in Naruto's hands. When they were covered in scarlet chakra, he swung them crosswise. Senpo, fangs of fury. 2 arched waves of red color flew towards Gyuro. Element of darkness, gates of hell. A wall similar to a gate appeared in front of God. Uzumaki's technique met the wall. A large explosion occurred, which destroyed and dried up the floor of the lake. Ha, I'm starting to like this, Boken said with a devilish grin. How about this, Senpo, Tengai Shinsei? The next moment, a huge meteorite appeared in the upper layers of the atmosphere and fell rapidly downwards. I understand everything, of course, but why the hell are you fighting without seriousness? Kurama said in his subconscious. Because if I start fighting seriously, we'll smash everything here to hell and that barrier won't hold up. You have no choice. Damn it. Senpo, Baijidama Raisin Shuriken. 2 Raisin Shuriken appeared in Naruto's hands, in the center of which was a bomb of the tailed beast. He directed one at the meteorite, and launched the second at Gyuro. 2 consecutive explosions sounded. The meteorite was destroyed. In the place where God stood, an explosion occurred, a large amount of dust rose up. When it dissipated, an inexplicable picture appeared to the shinobi. How? Naruto said with confusion. Absolute Susanos. There were 2 consecutive explosions. The meteorite was destroyed. An explosion occurred in the place where God stood, a large amount of dust rose up. When it cleared, an inexplicable picture appeared to the shinobi. How? Naruto said with confusion. Absolute Susanos. It's impossible, Sasuke whispered. Well, how do you like it? Asked Gyuro. A Sharingan with 6 tomo glowed in his eyes. The god Susanoo was completely black. He had 2 hammers in his hands. 2 wings were visible behind his back. In size, it was larger than Madara's or Sasuke's absolute Susanoo. He looked terrifying, especially his gala, which glowed red. Where did you get the Sharingan? Naruto asked. I had it. I'm an Uchiha after all. I just didn't show it to anyone, only Kagaya knew about it. So you changed your last name so that no one would guess. Right on target. Better give in peacefully and I won't kill you. Ha, dream on. Summoning technique. With a huge clap, a fox with 11 tails appeared. Sasuke, get your ass here, said Uzumaki standing on the fox's head. When the blonde made a passage through the barrier, Uchiha climbed onto the fox's head. Team, give me your chakra, Naruto said. At that moment, commas began to appear on his Rinnegan like on the Sharingan. 3 tomo appeared on the first 2 circles. WY? Sasuke said somehow, looking at Naruto's Rinnegan. All questions later, Uchiha touched Naruto's shoulder, passing chakra. Everyone go back, it will be hot here. But run! As soon as the brunette found himself in the barrier, Uzumaki began to fold the seals. Seal technique, the great shimmering barrier. A new barrier was placed on top of the old one. Now we can go wild, Kurama said mentally. Yes, but the chakra that Sasuke gave me won't last long, the blonde said out loud. We'll think of something, but still, damn, you can roll him into the ground with one blow, he's even weaker than Hamura. Remove Naruto's seal! It's too early. How long will you stand there? Attack! Shouted Gyuro. Sign mode, fusion. Susanoo. The fox and Naruto began to be covered in a dark red Susanoo shroud. How? Katon, Great Fire Dragon. Futon, Squall. The fiery mass created by Naruto flew at Gyuro. God did not even use any defense. He thought that this technique would not cause any harm, but how wrong he was. The technique crashed into the warrior and an explosion thundered. Everything was covered in smoke and dust. When the smoke cleared a little, the shinobi saw the half-melted skeleton of the enemy's Susanoo. It can't be. How? Brat, I'll destroy you. Anton, demonic flame. Susanoo Gyuro breathed out a huge wall of black flame. Damn, Naruto is the limit, stop waiting, it's time. Or we'll kick the bucket here. So there is no choice. FUIN, removing the limit. A sharp surge of chakra, a bright surge filled everything in the area. Now I'm cool myself, thanks for your help, said the blonde, and the fox disappeared. Sasuke's chakra will last for about 5 minutes, that should be enough. Naruto stood in the same place, only the fox was no longer there. Scarlet chakra circulated around him on the ground. Where did you get so much chakra? God was quite shocked by the blonde's amount of chakra. Enough talking, Naruto said, closing his eyes and putting his right hand forward, pointing his index finger at Gyuro. Amaterasu. A ball of black flame began to form near his hand. Flame. black fire began to mix with black. Naruto, be careful, he could explode from such concentration, so be careful. I can spare you, so you can go. Ha, I never. Wrath of the Biju. A black ball of chakra flew from Naruto's hand. It was somewhat reminiscent of a tailed beast's bomb, only this one was many times more powerful. There were only a few meters left before contact with the target. Come on, Naruto, now! Kurama's voice thundered. Uzumaki moved inside the barrier. Absolute Susan! If only it could hold up. The blonde thought. A terrible explosion thundered. The walls of the strongest barriers were blown away like a house of cards. Now the wave reached Susanoo. The warrior's armor began to crack. Blood started to flow from Uzumaki's right eye. Damn, Sasuke's chakra is gone. Susanoo was torn apart by the pressure, and there was no more chakra to support it. But just at that moment the explosion died down. Uzumaki fell to his knees, almost without strength, breathing heavily, in the place where Gyuro had been. There was a huge crater, around which everything was burned to the ground. Having risen to his feet with difficulty, the blonde looked towards the crater. Everything around it was completely burned out. There was no trace of Gyuro. You won! Hina said happily, holding Naruto's hand. No, he managed to teleport before the explosion. Naruto, how were you able to use Susanoo and Amaterasu? You don't have a Sharingan? Asked Sasuke. This is a special technique. With its help I can use those techniques that I cannot copy, that is, innate abilities and eye techniques. Thanks to this technique I can do this. For this I need the chakra of a person with such abilities. But this technique uses up too much chakra and depends on how much chakra was transferred to me. Uzumaki answered. But judging by your techniques, you could have managed without Sasuke's chakra, Sakura said. Yes, but I expected that he would use one very powerful technique, and in order to stop it, armor similar to Susanoo was needed. Moreover, Naruto didn't fight seriously. He almost never used his eyes or techniques above rank A, said the fox, appearing on the blonde's shoulder in the form of a small fox cub. Not expecting this, the friends jumped away from Uzumaki. Yes, that's true, I could defeat him, but then you would suffer, and I don't need that, Naruto said. Kurama, in the maelstrom, were there any marks or teleportation kunai left? Yes, it seems you left one kunai there. Excellent, I'll have to hurry with the training. Teleportation technology. A moment later, the group of shinobi was already standing next to the village of Whirlpool, or rather what was left of it. Approaching a tree that was next to them, Naruto pulled out a special kunai from it. Let's go have a rest, and from tomorrow we'll start training, said the blonde, and the group moved towards the village. Walking along the streets of Uzushio, the friends noticed a nearly intact building and decided to stay there for the night. Make yourself comfortable, and I'll put up a barrier just in case, Naruto said as he went outside. He's changed a lot. I don't see the cheerful and reckless blonde he used to be anymore, Sakura said. Yes, he became more serious, wiser, oddly enough, said Sasuke. But still, this is our Naruto, Hinata said, taking out a sleeping bag. Going outside, Uzumaki looked at the sky. Something didn't please him. Kagaya would definitely start acting tomorrow. He didn't understand where this thought came from, but the blonde was 100% sure of it. He had to have time to train his friends, but there was a catastrophic lack of time. He needed support in battle, not only moral, but also physical. He couldn't handle it himself. Maybe it would have worked with Kagaya, but there was also Gyuro. Having folded a couple of seals, Naruto set up a barrier and headed into the house, thinking about where he could start training, not only his friends, but his own as well. At this time in the Guild of Gods, Gyuro moved straight into the throne room, looking very battered. His arm was torn off at the shoulder, the explosion still caught him. Having somehow hobbled to the throne on which Kagaya sat, the god fell to one knee. As I see, you lost, although Uzumaki didn't even fight you seriously, Kagaya said discontentedly. I didn't fight him seriously either. I see it, that's why you lost your arm, idiot. My mission was reconnaissance. I can restore my hand. What did you find out? Asked Kagaya. There are 3 people with him, Haruno Sakura, Sasuke Uchiha and Hinata Hyuga, Gyuro answered. Okay, now let's go into more detail. Haruno Sakura, a first-class medic, possesses Byakugan. Sasuke Uchiha possesses Manjikyu Sharingan, possesses fire and lightning elements. Hinata Hyuga possesses Byakugan. This is all? Yes. Is that all you could scout out in a day? You're a worthless scout, as well as a fighter. Oh well, tomorrow we'll announce ourselves to the whole world. Now go and recover. As soon as Gyuro left the throne room, Kagaya stood up and headed towards some door and, opening it, went inside. Behind the door was a small room, in the middle of which a dark purple ball was hovering in the air, and from it small discharges were striking throughout the room. The world will soon fall, there is just a little bit left, a couple more days and all my strength will return to me. And you are the first one who will feel it on yourself, Uzumaki Naruto. I promise you this, you will know my wrath and pay for what you stole from me. The group of friends were already seeing the 10th dream, but Naruto was not sleeping, he was thinking about what he did before leaving the guild. Are you sure we did the right thing towards Hagoromo? Naruto asked the fox. Yes, he would like you to inherit it from him, but you shouldn't use it yet, we don't know what the consequences will be. Chapter 15 The sun began to appear over the horizon, illuminating the ruins of what was once the most powerful village in the shinobi world. In one of the surviving buildings, a group of shinobi awoke. After breakfast, they went to look for a good training area. Almost having walked around the village in a circle, they noticed something similar to a training area. Deciding that they would not find a better place, the friends decided to begin training here. So, since our time has been cut short, we will conduct training not here and at an accelerated pace. We will stay here for a couple of hours so that Kurama can create new chakra channels, thereby increasing its volume. Is everything clear? Naruto began the briefing. Not exactly, Nara began. You said that we would be training in the whirlpool? Yes, that's true, but in connection with yesterday's incident, thanks to which I realized that we are short of time, we will undergo training in another place, or rather in another dimension. There, time flows much faster than here. 1 hour here is equal to 1 and 12 hours there. So I'll knock you out for a short time now, so that it won't be so painful, okay? And how did you do that? Sasuke didn't have time to finish speaking, as Naruto had already made the tiger seal. All three began to fall to the ground, but the blonde managed to catch them with his chakra paws and lay them carefully on the ground. Come on, Kurama, start. Yellow chakra began to flow out of Naruto, from which a fox with 3 tails was formed. It was about the size of Akamaru. Approaching the 3 shinobi, Kurama began to lengthen the tails. The tip of each of them touched the forehead of the shinobi. They began to gradually be enveloped in the fox's chakra. For now, practice what we talked about yesterday, said the fox. Okay, I'll try, and you try to make the canals less painful. Sitting in the lotus position, Naruto began to meditate. Descending into his subconscious, Uzumaki saw the silhouette of Rikudo. Hagoromo-sensei, forgive me, the blonde began, but the old man interrupted him. You have nothing to apologize for, I wanted to give this thing to you anyway, just use it carefully. And as for my mother, I expected that she would soon betray us. How can I use it? It's very simple, just direct chakra at it, and it will activate. During my research, I noticed that it has the same properties as a regular one, only the powers are multiplied many times over. Activate it, and then I'll explain the rest. Naruto did everything as the old man told him. He did not notice any differences. Okay, now I'll pass on to you all the techniques I know. I hope this will help you somehow defeat Kagaya. Thanks to our forces with Amura, she will become almost invincible, plus her strength has almost returned to her. You need to hurry. The old man finished his instructions. I'm sorry I didn't help you save yourself. Don't worry. Hagoromo's silhouette disappeared. Sitting in the lotus position in his subconscious, Naruto began to reproduce the techniques. 6 hours later, Hinata with Sasuke, Sakura and Shikamaru began to come to their senses. Thanks to Kurama's efforts, they did not feel any pain. Naruto also sat motionless. Noticing the blonde, Hinata wanted to call him, but the fox stopped her. There's no point in touching him yet. What is he doing? Sakura asked. It's getting stronger. Where else could it get any stronger? Uchiha asked in shock. He is already stronger than all the Kage combined, and not only. But that's not enough, believe me. Kurama, did you do everything as I asked? Asked the blonde, sitting just as motionless with his eyes closed. Yes, the fox replied, returning to his host. How do you feel? Naruto asked his friends mentally. What the? The shinobi cried out at the same time, except for Hinata. She just looked at the blonde in shock. So you can hear me, that's good. I asked Kurama that in addition to the chakra channels, he would pour his chakra into you and mix it with yours, so that we could communicate mentally. He poured a huge amount of chakra into you. You can also see a hexagonal seal on your stomach. This means that you are now a pseudo-Jinchuriki of the 10-tailed demon fox. Lifting his shirt, Sasuke saw the seal that the blonde had just spoken of. Everyone turned their gaze to the Uchiha seal. The father-in-law of the 10-tailed one? Nara asked, remaining calm. By making you a Jinchuriki. Kurama spent too much chakra, sacrificing one tail in the process. Naruto answered the question, thereby shocking everyone present. Uzumaki began to stand up, and a black bandage began to appear over his eyes. Well, shall we get started with training? Commentary on Chapter 15. Waiting for comments. Chapter 16 Well, shall we begin training? Naruto said. A circle began to form around the shinobi, and symbols began to appear from its center. The group disappeared with a flash of light. They appeared in some clearing, on the outskirts of which stood a small house, surrounded by a small garden. It looked very beautiful. It's so beautiful here, Naruto-kun, Hinata said, looking at the clearing. Yes, it's great here, but don't relax, said the blonde, taking 4 scrolls from the seal on his wrist. And you need to read this, and then we will begin the practice. Uzumaki handed each of them a scroll. And in the meantime he sat down to meditate. 30 minutes later, Hinata distracted the blonde, kissing Naruto on the cheek and saying, We read everything. Well, shall we begin training? Naruto said. A circle began to form around the shinobi, and symbols began to appear from its center. The group disappeared with a flash of light. They appeared in some clearing, on the outskirts of which stood a small house, surrounded by a small garden. It looked very beautiful. It's so beautiful here, Naruto-kun, Hinata said, looking at the clearing. Yes, it's great here, but don't relax, said the blonde, taking 4 scrolls from the seal on his wrist. And you need to read this, and then we will begin the practice. Uzumaki handed each of them a scroll. And in the meantime he sat down to meditate. 30 minutes later, Hinata distracted the blonde, kissing Naruto on the cheek and saying, We read everything. Excellent, said the blonde, rising from the ground. Now put everything into practice. And how so? Asked Nara. There's a description of everything, plus the seals of the initial techniques. Everything is clearly written there, Uzumaki said discontentedly. Maybe you can show me yourself, smart guy, Sasuke said with a grin. Exhaling loudly, Naruto began to fold the seals. Nara, look, element of darkness, shadow theater. From their shadows, the head of a tiger began to appear. After a couple of seconds, the tiger was already standing at full height. Amazing, Sakura said together with Hinata. Uzumaki started to fold seals again. Now you team, the technique is a little different from the scroll, but no matter. Aoi Hano, 4-fingered herald of the underworld. Naruto exhaled a huge stream of blue flame, which in seconds transformed into a huge dragon that hung in the air. Everyone watched with open mouths the techniques that the blonde showed. Unfortunately, I can't show you the rest of the techniques, since I don't have your eye technique and I don't have any medical techniques. Disappointed sighs were heard from Sakura and Hinata. But don't worry, I will watch you and give advice and help. Well, not me, but my clones. Everyone went to different corners so as not to interfere with each other or to not touch each other. 4 copies of Naruto appeared next to him and went to help their friends, and Uzumaki himself went in the opposite direction from them. I think it will be just fine here. They won't see or notice what I'm doing and there won't be any unnecessary questions. I'll show you later, Naruto said mentally, while blocking the connection between the shinobi. Yes, you're right, Naruto. Let's get started, said the fox. with Shikamaru. Well, shall we get started, Shika? Of course, I'm lazy, but I have no choice. I roughly analyzed that technique and understood how to reproduce it, but I don't have such perfect chakra control as you and, Naru interrupted Uzumaki, not letting him finish. I wouldn't say so, but until we try we won't know, as they say, so let's go. Oh, so be it, Element of Darkness, Shadow Theater. It didn't turn out the same as Naruto's, but that's okay too. You learn quickly, even though you are lazy, of course, the blonde said with a smile. Then he began to talk about the rest of Shikamaru's techniques, trying to reproduce each one in practice. With Sasuke. Let's do it again, you can only show off, but you can't reproduce a basic technique. Naruto openly mocked Sasuke, thereby infuriating him. Shut up, Dobe, I'm not god like some. Okay then, let's work on the Sharingan for now, it will be much easier for you, since you will be able to copy these techniques. Couldn't you have started with this right away, oh great sensei? Go to hell, Tima, and forgive me. For wa, Sasuke didn't have time to finish. Kyofu no Genso, Illusion of Fear. After Sasuke met Naruto's eyes, his eyes immediately dimmed and fell to the ground. And now Sasuke, everything depends only on you. I won't describe it with Sakura, he brought her chakra control to perfection, that is, the same as his. With Hinata. So Hinata, activate the Byakugan and pour chakra into it, but not too quickly. Well done, when your eyes start to hurt, deactivate them. Got it? Yes, Hinata answered. Exactly 5 minutes later, the girl deactivated the dojutsu. Okay, now take a little rest, and then activate it, and we'll see what happens. Naruto-kun, what's wrong with your eyes? Why do you have a bandage? I just used my eyes for a long time, nothing to worry about. Naruto said, walking up to the girl and hugging her around the waist and kissing her. Uzumaki himself had just finished his training and was now sitting under a lonely tree, talking with Kurama. Well, Kurama, we've achieved our goal, now let's go see what success they've achieved. Yes, we will appear spectacularly. Of course, Databeo Uzumaki said out loud. Fukutsu no Senshi. Chapter 17 A couple of hours later, the entire team, except for Naruto, was sitting in a clearing and resting after grueling training, and this was only the beginning. They were sitting and discussing how the first day of their training had gone, everyone except Sasuke. He was sitting quietly thinking about something, not saying a word. Sakura decided to ask what was wrong with him. Sasuke, what happened to you? Nothing, Uchiha said monotonously, still looking somewhere into the distance. We can see that something happened to you, said Nara, looking intently at Sasuke. Yes. But it's better for you not to know this, said Uchiha, slowly turning to his friends and opening his eyes. Everyone stared at his eyes in surprise. They were almost the same as before, the same Sharingan, the same 3 kamas, but their color was a little different. The usual Sharingan is red, and the Tomo is black, or the Manjikyu drawing. But here it was the other way around, the eye was black, and the kamas were red. He looked a little frightening, but at the same time fascinating. Is this what Naruto was talking about back then? Hinata asked. Yes, it's the Neto Sharingan, but it's better not to ask how I awakened it. Suddenly a huge shadow hung over the clearing. When everyone raised their gaze to the sky, they saw something huge falling down, but because of the light of the sun it was impossible to make out. The shinobi suddenly jumped up and took a fighting stance. This something landed with a huge roar about 500 meters away from them, raising a column of dust that blocked everyone's view. When the dust cleared, a huge Susanoo in black armor appeared before the four. In his hands were 2 swords, inside him the friends saw Naruto. What the hell, Uzumaki? Sasuke shouted in anger. What is a team? Don't you like that you're not the only one who owns Susanoo? Naruto asked with a grin and continued. Well, how are you doing? Did everything work out? Well, almost everything, Nara said, yawning. Okay, then attack, Naruto said, scattering his Susanoo. First, tell me, how did you master this technique? Asked Sasuke. Then Tima, but first I want to see how you've progressed, so attack. Well, why did you ask for it yourself? Aoihano, flame. A wall of blue flame flew at Naruto. Putting his hand forward, the blonde absorbed the Uchiha's technique. But it was not so easy. Shikamaru attacked him from the side. Element of darkness, capture. And at that moment, Sakura ran at him from the other side, raising her hand to strike. Ha, that's very interesting, but... Divine punishment, Naruto said the technique, spreading his arms to the sides. A small burst of energy threw the two shinobi in different directions. At that moment, he heard Sasuke's cry. Now! At that moment, Uzumaki realized that he had lost sight of Hinata, for which he paid. Hand of revenge. Uzumaki tried to dodge, but simply tripped over a small stone and the blow landed on his right shoulder. The blonde went flying, plowing a couple dozen meters along the ground and crashed into a stone, which shattered into pieces. Everyone was horrified by this technique, a simple palm strike with a simply insane concentration of chakra. Hinata was already starting to panic. Where he crashed into the stone there was a column of dust and for a minute there was no sound from there. Yeah, that's a blow. From the dust cloud, the hand of the Susanoo stuck out, and then the rest of it along with Naruto. There was not a scratch on it, but there was a decent crack on the Susanoo, right in the place where Hinata's blow landed. If I hadn't managed to use Susanoo, I would have most likely lost my arm. Your techniques turned out just great, well done, and now rest. And I need to walk around and think about something. You still haven't answered where you got the Susanoo? Asked Sasuke. I told you, everything later. You haven't seen much of what I can do, so you'll be surprised later, but for now, rest, Naruto said and disappeared. He's acting strange today, don't you think? Sakura asked. No, maybe he's just tired, he also went to train, said Hinata. Maybe you're right, but don't you think he's taking too much on himself? Coming to the shore of the lake, Naruto saw Kaguya. I see you felt my presence. What do you need? The blonde asked. I'm giving you one last chance, Uzumaki. Naruto, surrender, Kaguya said, standing in the center of the lake. My answer is no. Okay, but before I leave, I'll tell you something. Right now, besides me, there are 5 Kage with shinobi squads in this dimension in order to capture you. You're lying. They have no reason to catch me and there's no way they could have penetrated this dimension. You are too self-confident. The thing is that I told you that you lied to them, but in fact you planned to destroy the world. To implement your plan, you killed Hamura and Hagoromo. I miraculously managed to force you to retreat. Then you put your friends in genjutsu so that they would go over to your side and help you implement the plan. The goddess began her story. But this is the ravings of a madman. But they believed. I gave them a couple of proofs, true, false, but they would never guess that before. And they are already here. But how did they end up here? Don't forget who taught you how to use these portals. It was I who brought them here. Even if so, they won't be able to defeat them. They are no longer simple shinobi. They also won't believe this nonsense. Yes, they are not simple shinobi, but together with Kage I sent Gyuro. Damn. Naruto disappeared in a flash. When the blonde moved to the camp, a not very colorful picture appeared before him, which made him angry. Chapter 18 Damn. Naruto disappeared in a flash. When the blonde moved to the camp, a not very colorful picture appeared in front of him, which drove him crazy. In front of him sat tied up his friends, each with a seal that suppressed chakra. Gyuro stood next to him and smiled insolently. A little further away stood the 5 Kage. Naruto looked from his friends, then at God, then at the Kage, estimating how many minutes he could put their brains in. Well, except for Gyuro, the blonde wanted to grind him into dust. There was not a scratch on Sasuke and Sakura with Shikamaru, as well as Hinata. Uzumaki did not like all this. They were strong and would not give up without a fight. Something was definitely wrong, but he quickly dismissed this thought, turned his gaze to the Kage. What the hell is going on here and what is this bastard doing here? Well, why so rude, Naruto? Gyuro said calmly, smirking. I'll repeat my question. What's going on here? The blonde asked. Rage was boiling inside him. Naruto released a decent amount of chakra. The ground under his feet began to crack in large cracks, and small stones, forgetting the laws of gravity, began to rise up. The young man was enveloped in scarlet chakra. From the outside it might have seemed that he was burning. "You can guess it yourself," said God. "Naruto, is what he said true?" "You," Sasuke began. "Do you really believe that nonsense that this idiot told you?" asked Naruto. "He had very good evidence that it was you who killed those two. You were overcome with a thirst for power," Sasuke said louder and louder. "Do you even believe what you're telling Tima? How could you think that? Do you think that about me too?" the blonde asked, looking at his friends. Silence was his answer. "What's wrong with you? Okay, Kage, any fool can fool them, but you. Watch your language, puppy, or else." He didn't have time to finish speaking before he was immediately pressed to the ground. After all, Naruto had excellent command of the Rinnegan. "Okay, they are, but you. Hinata, I love you and would never lie to you. Why don't you believe me?" the blonde asked with a hint of despair, but the girl remained silent. "Naruto," Kakashi began to speak, but Uzumaki immediately interrupted him. "You are no better than them, Kakashi-sensei. You always supported me. You believed in me, and now what? You are following the lead of who knows who. What is wrong with you?" Now Naruto felt a storm of emotions in himself, those that he had long tried to hide: loneliness, despair, rage, hatred. "Okay, then I have nothing more to talk about with you. And as one person said, I am breaking all the ties that have ever connected us, and now goodbye." "You think that we will just let you go?" said the Mizukage, already making a seal, but Giro stopped her. "Let him go now, we can't stop him. You will pay for this, you and this creature," Naruto said angrily, looking at God. "What big words for a loser." Sasuke's statement left the blonde speechless. "Okay, if everyone has turned away from me and considers me a monster, a murderer, then what's the point of saving the world?" The answer is simple: none. Now I understand Madara's words, the ones he told me before his death. The world is rotten and we, shinobi, are to blame. It needs to be cleansed of this filth. You are all just a bunch of trash. Naruto was no longer responsible for his words and actions, he was driven by rage and hatred. The young man closed his eyes and lowered his hands, but the concentration of chakra in him and around him remained the same. "Bastard!" the Raikage muttered through his teeth, still remaining pinned to the ground. "Shinra Tensei," the last thing Naruto said before disappearing. The young man moved to some forest. One could say that it was gloomy here. "Have you gone too far, Naruto?" the fox spoke in his subconscious. "No, Giro was there, he most likely blocked them from the equipment." "Why did you decide that?" "Because he needs them alive, he wants to use them to press a weak spot. But he won't succeed." "But…" "Kurama, let's not do it now." "Okay," the nine-tailed said in his subconscious and closed his eyes, remembering Rikudo's words on the day the fusion took place. Memory. "Remember my words, Kurama, watch him," said the sage. "Because…" Yes, I remember everything," the fox interrupted the old man. "He can become the savior of the whole world, but one incident can turn everything back and then this world will be doomed, for the wrath of God knows no bounds." "But father, how will I know when that fateful moment comes when he has to make a choice?" "You will understand this, Kurama, but the main thing is not to understand it's too late." End of memories. I'm late. Naruto walked out to the edge of the forest and stopped. If the whole world is against me, why save it if it will only get worse? But they will pay in full for what they did. This world will still know who Uzumaki Naruto is the fallen. Let this world know pain. Chapter 19 It was already getting dark. A lonely silhouette in a black cloak was walking through the forest. His face was hidden by a hood. He moved slowly, casually. After walking a couple more meters he stopped. Next to him appeared, with a pop, a black ten-tailed fox, the size of a man's shoulder. "Did you want something, Naruto?" asked Kurama. "Yes, I need your help. I don't know what they brainwashed them with, but we need to stick to the plan," said Uzumaki. "But how will we cope without them, especially since everyone is now against you?" "I have an idea. I know you won't approve of it, but still, this is the only way out for now," said the blonde, taking off his hood and turning to the fox. "Speak," I probably won't be surprised by anything anymore. Kurama, we'll have to declare war on them. Have you completely lost your mind? What the hell is a war? Of course, I understand that you are angry at them, but Kurama was very shocked by such a statement. You misunderstood me. We will declare war on them. Most likely they will ask Kaguya for help or she will offer it to them herself. This will be to our advantage. She will decide that this is the best way to catch me so that she doesn't suffer herself. And then we will have a chance, albeit not a big one. Naruto outlined the plan to the fox. But what about Gyuro? He won't cause any big problems. You noticed that in the battles with him I didn't remove the last chakra block, so I could accidentally hit someone. Naruto answered Kurama's question. Well, this is a good opportunity. When will we declare war? Asked the fox, smiling, although it looked like a bloodthirsty grin. First, since we are not far from our highly respected Kage, we will put on a small show. The blonde answered, sensing the chakra of the 5 Kage and Gyuro a kilometer away from them. Naruto began to quickly fold the seals. The fox recognized them and grinned and said, Naruto, you're almost the same as always, only now you choose what's effective and efficient. Senpo. Event Horizon. Uniwari. First step. At that moment, the evening sky changed color from dark blue to scarlet. The sky was illuminated by bright flashes of lightning, accompanied by loud peals of thunder. The atmosphere resembled some kind of horror film. Instead of soft moonlight, everything was immersed in blood-red tones. The Kage who were not far away were seriously scared. Only Gyuro remained unperturbed. He understood whose hands this was and he really did not like it. This is most likely the work of Uzumaki Naruto, God said. Are you sure about this? Asked Hei. Yes, let's hurry before he leaves. Kage and Gyuro moved towards Naruto. At this time, Naruto was talking with Kurama and waiting for the guests to arrive. Why only the first level? The fox asked. This will be enough for now to raise a ruckus among the population and make the village heads afraid, the blonde answered. They're already here, Kurama said as he disappeared. Naruto, what the hell are you doing? Kakashi asked. Stop this, the Raikage barked. Why? These changes show what I feel now, anger, hatred. What's the point of talking to him? We need to capture him, said the Tsuchikage. As if you could do that. Naruto chuckled. That's why I'm here, Gyuro said, stepping forward. They stood opposite each other, but neither of them was going to fight. After a couple of minutes of silence, Naruto turned to Gyuro. You know what will happen if we start a battle, especially since the odds are clearly not in your favor. You will have to show all your cards. Removing the limit, the last gate. What happened made a huge impression on the village heads. They expected all the strong pressure of chakra and something like that. But nothing happened. Even worse, all the chakra that they felt in Naruto simply disappeared, evaporated. The first to break down was Hei. What happened to your chakra? Where did it go? She didn't disappear, God began. Naruto has reached a new level. It's just that now it's so great that you simply can't feel it. I'm very surprised. Even with all the limits removed, my chakra can be felt. I admit I was even lucky that he didn't fight me at full strength. Stop showing off, Naruto said coldly. And now you. I will not tolerate such accusations against me and the following. Uniwari second stage. Lightning started to strike the ground and small meteorites started to fall, but they didn't manage to reach the ground, burning up halfway. The wind suddenly picked up, and the ground started to shake under the shinobi's feet. It looked like a mini-apocalypse, which was exactly what this technique caused. I declare war on you. You have 2 days to prepare, Naruto said and disappeared. Commentary on Chapter 19. I'm waiting for feedback. Chapter 20 The Kage stood in confusion. They did not understand what had happened. They had declared war again. Kakashi did not want to believe that his student had decided to follow in Madara's footsteps and destroy the world. He himself did not want to believe that Naruto was to blame for everything, but he could not go against all the villages. This would worsen Konoha's situation. He and the entire village could be considered accomplices of a common enemy. But it was too late to retreat. They had 2 days to prepare, and then he, together with the Shinobi Alliance, would go against his student. So, in silence, they stood for a couple of minutes, until Gyuro spoke. "You will need Kaguya-sama's help. You can't handle him on your own." "I don't think so, an alliance against one sub-god," Hayes spoke as always arrogantly, from above. "For once, I completely agree with him," said the Tsuchikage. "I can say one thing, if he wanted, you would already be dead. You are no match for him. Without our help you won't last even an hour," said God. "Gyuro, do you know how to cancel this technique?" asked Gaara, looking at the raging elements. "Alas, but no, most likely this is his personal technique. So, now return to your villages and get ready, the assembly point is on the border of the country of lightning." "Is everything clear to everyone?" Gyuro began to give commands. "Yes," the village heads answered simultaneously. "Okay, now I will warn Kaguya," God said and disappeared. Somewhere on the border of the land of fire. "You saw their faces." "Ahaha. It was something. You are still the most unpredictable ninja, although now you are the most unpredictable god," Kurama said laughing, walking next to the blonde. "Yes, they clearly didn't expect this. But here's what worries me," Naruto began to say, but the fox interrupted him. "I know, I don't understand either, although I have a guess." "Spill it." "Most likely, when I made them pseudo-Jinchuriki, I poured a decent amount of my chakra into them, now they can sense it. And you said to make something like a beacon, so that everyone would know where their comrade is. But we didn't foresee that they could track us down too. And now they're following our tracks. Location is about 1/2 kilometer to the southeast. What are we going to do, move?" "No, they want to stop me, let them try." "Let's wait for them here," said Naruto, looking in the direction from which the guests were supposed to appear. Approaching a large boulder, he jumped on it and sat in the lotus position and began to wait. Kurama, who was almost 2 meters tall, lay down under this stone, put his head down and began to wait. A couple of minutes later, 4 shinobi were already standing in front of the blonde. Naruto did not react to this in any way, continuing to sit on the stone. "How long are you going to ignore us, Uzumaki?" Sasuke asked, but Naruto was still sitting motionless as before. "Well, that's it." Sakura took out a kunai and threw it at him with decent force. When it flew almost right up to the blonde, Naruto sharply dodged, intercepting the kunai. He quickly got up and turned 360 degrees on one leg, sending it back, while charging the wind chakra at full capacity. Passing a few centimeters from Sakura's face, the kunai pierced several trees that were behind. "And what do you want from me?" Uzumaki asked. "What do you mean we have to catch you, traitor?" said Uchiha. "Well, I remember those times when we were still friends," Naruto said, taking off the blindfold. "Those times are over, Naruto. You are a threat to the world," said Shikamaru, not believing these words himself, but something prevented him from taking his side. "I'm ashamed to even call you friends." The fair-haired man didn't have time to finish, as Sasuke appeared next to him, raising a sparkling katana for a blow. Naruto turned sharply, intercepted the Uchiha's hand and, jumping up to be above him, formed a yellow Rasengan in his hand, and hit the shinobi with it. From this blow Sasuke met that stone, which, from such pressure, shattered into small pieces, raising a cloud of dust. A couple of seconds later, the Uchiha flew out of this cloud, right at the feet of the others. Having somehow gotten up with the help of the shinobi, he began to look for Naruto together with the others in that cloud of dust. A couple of seconds later, Uzumaki came out of there. In this red lighting, he looked terrifying. The Rinnegan with 6 tomo was burning in his eyes. In his right hand he held the Rakuto staff, and behind his back were 6 black balls. "I don't want to fight with you. Believe me, I haven't done anything and I don't plan to." "Sorry, but we don't believe you," Sasuke said, wiping the blood from his split lip with the back of his hand. "Then you will see everything for yourself." Senpo, Jiken no Sakami. Chapter 21 After Naruto named the technique, everything swam before the shinobi's eyes, all the colors faded and darkness set in, which lasted only a couple of seconds. They found themselves in some dimension. Everything was mottled with white tones. There was emptiness around, no one and nothing except them. Naruto stood opposite them in the same form and watched them carefully. As he had assumed, Sasuke wanted to rush into battle again, but he didn't know much about this dimension. Attempts to activate the Sharingan were futile. Uchiha looked angrily at the blonde, waiting for an explanation. In this dimension, no kind of jutsu works, except for taijutsu. Naruto started the conversation. I just want to talk to you. I want to know why you turned away from me. After everything we went through together, shoulder to shoulder, after everything that happened to us, you just went and trusted someone you don't know. You trusted someone you don't even know. I don't understand you. You would have done the same in our place. Sakura expressed her opinion, but she said it in vain. Never! Naruto shouted, releasing so much ki that Kurama in the blonde's subconscious shuddered. But he immediately calmed down, exhaling loudly. I will never betray my friends, no matter what they did. For example, you Uchiha, when you left the village, I turned away from you, tried to kill you like the others? No! I, like a fool, tried to return, to bring my stupid friend to his senses. And what now, huh? You only needed me when you needed help, you used me as a weapon. And now you probably think that I hate you. No! I only feel emptiness. Hinata, you always supported me, you loved me, and what now, tell me? Why did you believe them, but not me? Answer me, Naruto said, raising his voice more and more, switching to a scream, but then began to calm down. Nobody knew what to answer. He was right in some things, damn, he was right in everything. How could they betray a friend who always saved them from various troubles, always supported them? Everyone thought about what the blonde said, tried to make sense of everything. And what do you suggest, Naruto? Sasuke spoke, looking at the blonde, no longer with a hateful, but with a tired look. Just believe you, but I don't want you to believe only my words, that's why I used this technique. Which one? Asked Sakura. This technique is called Spiral of Time. It can show the memories of the one who used it, certain moments of life. Now pay attention to the back, said Uzumaki. Everyone turned and saw a large black rectangular wall, on which frames from Naruto's life began to quickly flash in a chaotic order, and then what he wanted to show appeared. POV Naruto. Uzumaki gathered everything he needed and, putting on his cloak, moved towards the so-called arena. Almost reaching it, Naruto met Gyuro. Looking at Naruto with contempt, he said, You better give up right now if you don't want to die, now for good. Heh, be careful that I don't sweat you like a fly. How are you? At this time Hamura approached them. Well, are you ready? Yes, answered Gyuro. Yeah, Naruto said monotonously. That's good, come in. Naruto's gaze opened up to a huge arena. Only 3 people were in the audience, Hagoromo, Hamura and Kagaya. Standing opposite each other, the 2 gods began to wait for the fight to begin. Having summoned the staff and Gudadama, Naruto waited for the start of the fight to be announced, while keeping an eye on his opponent. Uzumaki Naruto, in this fight we will test whether you are worthy of being called God, the goddess said, standing up from her seat. Are you ready? They nodded in response. Then I declare the start of the duel. The opponents stood and waited to see who would attack first. A tense aura hung over the arena. Gyuro was the first to break down. If you don't want to, then I'll attack first. Element of darkness, road to hell. Large black chains burst out from under the ground and rushed towards the blonde. Naruto repelled them with only a splash of chakra and grinned and said, Is that all the Warden of Hell is capable of? He deliberately tried to irritate Gyuro so that he would make some mistake or get distracted. Don't get too carried away, brat. Inton, breath of death. Gyuro exhaled something like steam or black smoke. This cloud quickly spread across the arena and moved towards the guy. Futon, divine wind. Uzumaki exhaled a strong stream of wind, which began to disperse the poisonous fog. So Gyuro decided to play big. What did you expect, for me to fuss over you like a child? The brunette replied. Enough playing around, flame element, fire god. A black and red flame in the shape of a dragon's head flew at Naruto. Uzumaki jumped sharply to the side and began to perform a series of seals. The art of seals, fire absorption. But the attempt to seal the fire failed miserably. At this time Gyuro sent 4 more dragons at the blonde. Omayatan, eternal glimpse. A few moments later the darkness dissipated. Kaguya stands at the edge of the arena. Two bodies lie next to her, Hamura and Hagoromo. The gods were wounded, they could not move. Two bone pins crawled out of the goddess's hands, pointing them at Hamura and Hagoromo. She did not hesitate for a second to pierce her sons. Their bodies began to crumble like corpses resurrected by Edo Tensei, crumbling like plaster. "Why?" asked the young man. "Why? Do you want to know why I killed them?" There was no answer. "Okay, I'll tell you my story and how my own sons sealed their own mother. Let's start with the fact that I was born before the hidden villages were founded, during the endless wars between humanity. To stop this, I decided to be the first to eat the forbidden fruit from the god tree and acquired the ability to control the so-called chakra. Having received it, I single-handedly stopped the war. After some time, I had two sons, Hagoromo and Hamura. As it turned out, they inherited my power. You understand my power. I wanted to take the chakra from them, but someone took it and hid it. I searched for them for many years, and now I was completely desperate. Emotions took over me and I, in a fit of rage, turned into Jubi. My search was crowned with success. After decades I found them, in some abandoned village. I had a chance to take back what belongs to me. But these brats learned to use it. They used my power to save these pathetic people. I was very angry. We started to fight. I was ready to kill them to get my power back, but Hamura and Hagoromo managed to defeat me. They sealed me in Shibaku Tensei and sent me to another dimension. And so, thanks to the power that flows in our veins, we became gods. I understood perfectly well that it was not worth going on the attack now, since I was too weak and I needed time to fully recover, so I pretended to have lost my memory. And so, after so many years, I took revenge on them and took back my powers. In general, that's all. Then the footage rewound a little. You can tell your insignificant people that I declare war on them. Let them at least fight for their existence. Naruto's silhouette began to dissolve. Before disappearing completely, he said, "Remember me, Kaguya Otsutsuki, for I am your death." End POV Naruto. The screen disappeared. Everyone had a storm of emotions inside. Mostly it was shame. How could they just go and betray their friend? But he wanted to tell them everything from the very beginning, but they did not want to listen to him. The shinobi turned to Naruto, trying not to look him in the eyes. Just as Hinata was about to say something, Naruto interrupted her. "No need for words, you forgot, we are one now, I feel everything perfectly. And Hinata, I know what you are thinking about now, no, I still love you." Hearing this, the girl burst into tears. Unable to bear it, Naruto moved to her and hugged her. "Then what are we going to do?" "The war that you declared is tomorrow," asked Nara. "It's very simple, you continue to hate me. As if none of this happened, and when the fighting starts, you will separate me and Kaguya from the alliance. And I will grind this creature into dust," said Naruto. His eyes glowed with a bluish glow, and they left the dimension. Commentary on Chapter 21. Don't be stingy, leave a review. Chapter 22 The shinobi woke up lying on the ground. Naruto was standing in the same place where he had transferred them to another dimension. They got up with difficulty. Everything was swimming in their eyes. Niji, Guy, and Kiba landed behind them. Looking unkindly at the blonde, they helped the shinobi come to their senses. "What did you do to them, bastard?" Kiba shouted, looking at Naruto. Uzumaki only smirked at this. Turning around, he was about to leave, when Yamato arrived. "You don't think you can leave, Naruto?" Yamato asked. Naruto turned his head in his direction and smiled slightly. "You don't think you can stop me, do you? There are more of us. Even though we are weaker than you individually, together we will defeat you." Kiba yelled again, which began to irritate the blonde a little. Such big words. Naruto suddenly disappeared from the ninja's sight. "Don't you think so?" Uzumaki said, already standing behind the dog handler's shoulder. Kiba, who had not expected this, jumped up on the spot, as did everyone else except for the four. Having jumped back sharply, they took a fighting stance. Naruto, however, had no intention of fighting. He had more important things to do. "Hokage-sama, you were not taught that eavesdropping is bad, and attacking from behind is mean," said the demigod without turning around. The ash-haired man came out from behind the tree and fixed his gaze on Uzumaki and said, "Let's go, we need to get ready." And Naruto, "I feel sorry for you." "Me sorry? Why?" "I should be sorry that I once called you sensei, and the rest friends," said Naruto, trying to make his voice as rough as possible. "And you know what, I changed my mind. If tomorrow at exactly 5 o'clock in the afternoon you are not there, I will complete the technique and then nothing will help you. How do I understand Madara now? If I knew that this would happen, I would even help him," said Naruto. Disappeared in a white flash, leaving everyone in bewilderment. Kakashi stood and looked at the place where his former student had just been, and after a couple of seconds said, without taking his eyes off, "Kiba, Niji, Sasuke and Guy, notify the other Kage about this and return to Konoha. Try to do it quickly, they shouldn't have gone far." "Do it." "Yes," said the shinobi and disappeared in different directions. "And we will return to Konoha, we need to prepare. This night will be the longest and most painful, because tomorrow the war will begin. Who would have thought that it would be started by the one who saved the world in the last war?" In the upcoming battle, the whole world was again at stake, but now the gods were on their side. But what would happen on the battlefield, according to Naruto's plan, would radically tip the scales. It was already past midnight, preparations were in full swing in all countries. In the Guild of Gods, Kaguya, as always, sat in her chair and thought about what Gyuro had just told her. She understood that this was a good opportunity to finish off Naruto, but something was troubling her. She threw these thoughts aside. The goddess agreed to help the alliance. By killing Naruto, she would gain his power and put her plan into action there. "Gyuro, tell all the heads of the villages that I will help them in the war. Let them prepare for the war. It will be short," said Kaguya. "As you command, Kaguya-sama," said the Warden of Hell and disappeared. At this time, in the Valley of the End, Naruto sat on Senju Hashiram's head and thought about his actions. In the subconscious. "In principle, your plan is good, but it needs to be adjusted slightly," said the fox, laying his head on his crossed paws. "Kurama, as always, you find fault with everything," the blonde was indignant. "These small details can and will work out. The course of events is almost impossible to predict." "Almost, but it's possible. Although there is one plus, you won't rush at the enemy with your fists, as you hadn't thought about before." "Well, thank you, you're a woolen rug?" "No. What did you just blurt out there, little brat?" "Forget it. I think," Naruto began to say, but he was interrupted by an impudent, no longer red-haired face. Naruto thought? "You know, you're starting to scare me," the fox laughed at his entire subconscious. "Go away," Naruto was indignant, but then calmed down. "I'm not sure that my strength is enough to defeat Kaguya. As a last resort, we have one option, although for you it will mean the end of your shinobi career and your demigod power. I hope we won't need it, although I don't know, but if there is no choice, I will use divine burial, without hesitation, despite the consequences. For me, preserving peace is more important than anything else. There are only a few hours left before the war. We should also prepare Kurama." Naruto disappeared, leaving the fox alone. Chapter 23 and Early morning, Naruto was in some small hut not far from the Land of Fire. He was sitting in a rocking chair. Kurama was lying next to him. Both were looking at one point on the wall. This continued for about an hour, until the fox spoke. "Well, is it time, Naruto?" Kurama looked at his Jinchuriki. He was serious. Sighing heavily, the blonde turned his gaze to the fox, then back to the wall. "Yes, I think it's time, Kurama. I wonder if Madara felt the same way when he declared war on the whole world," Naruto said, making a concentration seal. "I don't know, this is the first time for me too," Kurama grinned. Naruto smiled and said the name of the technique. Fuin, release. In the place where they were looking, a wall began to appear, and the old one disappeared. Naruto's equipment was located on it. There was a cloak hanging there, like Rikudo's, only black, and the images were blood red. Also something like a vest with iron inserts. It was black, and the plates were dark gray. Nearby was a katana, black. Its blade was black. With the exception of the dragon pattern, it was red. Also hanging on the wall were bracers with metal plates, a bandana, along the edges of which were two small horns, and in the middle was the kaji piece, and fingerless gloves. After examining his equipment, Uzumaki began to change. Having dressed, Naruto began to meticulously examine himself in the mirror, then turning to the fox, he asked, "So how is it? Naruto, you're not going to show off, you're going to war. What the hell difference does it make what you look like? You could have said something," said the blonde, and then added in a whisper, "A fox fur coat." "I heard everything," the fox said without opening his eyes. Naruto only snorted at this. "Give them access to mental communication," Uzumaki said seriously. A second later Naruto felt his friend's thoughts. "Over, do you hear me?" Naruto said. "Naruto, is that you?" the shinobi said almost simultaneously. "No, damn, not me. How are the preparations for the war against me going?" the demigod chuckled. "We're running, we're bustling about, but in general we're already ready." "The plan is the same?" said Nara. "Yes, everything is the same," the blonde answered. "What about Kagaya?" "She will take part," Sasuke replied. "Okay, see you on the battlefield. And don't do anything else without my command." "Kurama, jam the connection," Naruto said, and the fox turned off the mental connection. "Well, Rug, it's time for us to go," Naruto said and moved to the supposed battlefield together with the fox. The sun was already at its zenith when the alliance arrived at the battlefield, where Naruto was already waiting for them. He was sitting on a small rock in the lotus position. Everything around was the same, a blood-red sun, only lightning no longer flashed and meteorites did not fall. A few seconds later, two silhouettes appeared in front of the shinobi alliance. These were Kagaya and Gyuro. The shinobi looked at the gods with admiration and respect, especially the goddess. Naruto opened his eyes and looked at everyone present. "You arrived earlier than expected, although this is even better, we'll finish faster." Hei was unchangeable, but his indignation crossed Kagaya. "I will deal with Uzumaki Naruto personally, I have my own scores to settle with him." As always arrogant, Naruto grinned as he rose. He jumped high into the sky and folded the summoning seal. In an instant, the 10-tailed fox Kurama landed on the ground in all its glory. Naruto stood on its head, his arms crossed over his chest. The sight of the bijou sent a chill down everyone's spine. The fox roared loudly, and a shock wave formed from his roar. "But then what are we here for if you are going to fight on your own?" asked the Kazekage. "You will be supportive if he wins me." She didn't have time to finish, the blonde interrupted her. "You will have your own opponent. This opponent will be Kurama." At these words the fox grinned bloodthirstily, which caused even more fear in the shinobi of the alliance. Uzumaki glanced quickly at the alliance, looking for his friends. They, as he assumed, stood in the front rows, that is, they were the striking force. "No one wants to join me?" Naruto asked, thus giving them a signal. Four shinobi suddenly appeared on the fox's head. They were Shikamaru, Sasuke, Sakura, and Hinata. This caused a wave of indignation in the alliance. Everyone was shouting something like, "Traitors! How could you?" Naruto made a thoughtful look, then we changed the layout. "I'll take Kagaya. The four of you take yourselves. And to you, my dears, I'll leave Kurama. Forward." "Naruto, as strange as it may sound coming from me, but be careful," Sasuke said. "Yes, don't die there," said Nara, stretching lazily. Naruto smiled. "You be careful too, he's strong," Naruto said and wanted to jump off, but Hinata stopped him. Naru, she couldn't say anything else, so the blonde kissed her. Reluctantly breaking away, he said, "Take care of yourself." Then he turned towards Kagaya. He began to be enveloped by dark chakra with a red tint, like his bijou mode. Naruto suddenly jumped up, doing a forward somersault in the air. He landed in front of the alliance. From his landing, cracks appeared on the ground. From the amount that he released upon landing, the heads of the villages involuntarily trembled. "Maybe we should move to a more convenient place?" Naruto asked. Receiving something like a nod, he moved a couple of kilometers. A second later Kagaya appeared. "Do you think you can defeat me?" "You're too self-confident," Kagaya said arrogantly. "The time for talking is over. There is no need to hold back here." "Yes, you're right," the goddess said, activating the Byakugan. Then let's begin. Aoihano, heavenly flame. Naruto breathed out a wall of flame, which was 10 times greater than Madara's fire destruction. The fire was rapidly approaching Kagaya. The goddess stood motionless. When there were a couple of meters left to her, she put her hand forward. A shock wave departed from her that swept away this fire. Yes, the fight will not be easy. If so, then we will play for big. On the battlefield of Gyro. Hey, you kids are strong, but you are not Naruto. You can't handle me. Intan, Satan's wrath. A black flame flew at the fore. Reacting quickly, Sasuke used Amaterasu. The two techniques collided, destroying each other. At that moment, Nara used Shadow Theater, trying to catch him, but he moved too fast. And then again, when he dodged Shikamaru's shadow, Sakura was already flying at him with a raised fist. Gyro managed to dodge and the Kunoichi's fist met the ground, forming a huge crater in it. At that moment, Hinata attacked him from the side, attacking him with the hand of retribution, but the blow never reached its target. How did you get on my nerves? Said Gyro standing behind Hinata. No one had time to understand what had happened, as Hyuga already had a sword sticking out of his chest. Kurama, not wanting to get his paws dirty, put a barrier around the alliance and moved to Naruto. On the battlefield of Kagaya and Naruto, where the gods fought, chaos ensued. They were almost invisible, their speed was very high, where their techniques touched, explosions of monstrous power occurred. And so a sword fight began between them. Since the goddess did not have a sword, she used a staff. When their weapons touched, shock waves emanated from them. In general, they changed the terrain well. Kagaya began to lose ground, she simply could not keep up with Naruto. The goddess was getting closer and closer to the place where Gyro was fighting and Uzumaki noticed this. Are you running? It won't work, Flame, Rebirth of the Phoenix. A huge fire bird flew at Kagaya. Sutton, Great Water Dragon. A large water dragon flew out from under the ground, dragging Naruto's phoenix along with it. The techniques were of a high rank, so they could not overcome each other for a long time, but in the end they dissipated, forming a huge cloud of steam. Taking advantage of this, Kagaya launched a bone rod at Naruto. Because of the fog, he did not notice it right away, but still managed to dodge and turning 360 degrees, putting his left hand forward, he shot the goddess with a ball of red chakra. An explosion occurred, which dispelled the fog. As Naruto expected, the technique did not reach its target. Kagaya stood safe and sound. I'm tired of this, it's time to finish with you. An explosion occurred not far from them, and Susanoo's Sasuke appeared behind the trees. Even so, Naruto began to form a Biju bomb in his hand, around which blades first appeared, and then rings of fire, water, earth, and lightning also appeared. By this time, Kagaya had already formed a snow-white sphere in her hand. They rushed towards each other at the speed of sound. There was an explosion, accompanied by a bright flash that could be seen for several kilometers. The shock wave even reached the alliance. The walls of the barriers shook and collapsed, freeing the shinobi. At the site of the battle, in the crater lay two, Kagaya and Naruto. They spent almost all their strength on the last attack. Somehow getting up, the goddess rushed to Gyro, the blonde, overcoming the pain in his body, followed her. They got there quickly. Gyro was badly battered, but his friends were in a deplorable state. And the gods themselves were no better. Naruto was bleeding from his right eye due to overexertion, the left was injured in the last attack, clothes were torn. Kagaya looked a little better than Naruto. Where is Hinata? The blonde asked in a trembling voice. Silence. I finished her off. Gyro said. Oh, how in vain he said that. A second and Naruto is already standing behind God with a katana in his hand, a drop of blood neatly rolled off its blade. Gyro stood motionless, his face reflected incomprehension, just like the goddess's. In an instant, Gyro's head separated from his shoulders. You're right, it's time to end this, Naruto said, turning to face her. They were separated by some 10 meters. Fear was reflected in her eyes. Naruto, we have no chakra left, you understand, the fox said. Yes, Kurama. The Jinchuriki's voice was so cold that Kurama involuntarily shuddered. The Rasengan began to spin in the blonde's hand. At that moment, the alliance arrived. You won't plunge this world into illusion, Kagaya. If it weren't for you, Then everything would have worked out for me. Kaguya was stunned by these words, as was the entire alliance. Now they realized how wrong they were, but it was too late. When Naruto formed the Rasengan, some symbols started to appear on it. You are finished, Otsutsuki Kaguya. Know the fury of God. The blonde suddenly moved towards her, putting his hand with the Rasengan forward. The goddess did not have time to do anything and the sphere hit her right in the solar plexus. Divine burial. The symbols from the Rasengan transferred to her body, and she began to disappear. Starting from her chest, her body became transparent. You won, but I will take you with me, said the goddess and pierced Naruto with a pin. After a couple of seconds she disappeared. Naruto! Sasuke shouted and wanted to run up to the blonde, but with a gust of wind Naruto crumbled into millions of leaves, or something like that, which flew up into the sky.